Chapter 001. I really traveled through time and became a pot king. Danzo held the mirror and stared at the strange face. Danzo at this moment is no longer the same Danzo as before. Because just an hour ago, a soul from outer space broke into Shimura Danzo's body. After a simple and rough reinstallation system, the foreign soul successfully occupied this body. To be honest, Danzo is very dissatisfied at this moment. Because before traveling through time, he was only 20 years old, in the best youth. As a result, after traveling through time, he became a 60-year-old man, and a bandaged one-eyed man. That's right, the time he traveled through time was the 51st year of Konoha. At this moment, Konoha F4 is exactly 60 years old. From 20 to 60 years old, Danzo said that he could not accept such a big generation gap. System, get out of here. Danzo threw away the mirror and said coldly, Ding. May the glory of the Virgin Mary shine on the world. The Holy Mother system is always at Ning's service. Danzo's mouth twitched, and he took 3 deep breaths before saying, For this time of crossing, the experience is extremely bad. I am very dissatisfied. I want a refund. Ding. Restarting the crossing program requires 1 million moving points. Host's current moving point balance, 0. Failed to start the crossing program. Danzo was unwilling and said bitterly, Then you have to give some compensation, such as a novice gift package or something. Ding. Ning's novice gift package has arrived. Do you want to check it? Check it. Open it directly. Ding. Congratulations to the host for getting a rejuvenation pill. Rejuvenation pill. After taking it, you can be 40 years younger, without any side effects. Only for host use. Oh my god. Can it be like this? Danzo was a little confused. An hour later when he was young, Guaying was still good-looking. Looking at the young and handsome face in the mirror, Danzo finally nodded with satisfaction. Danzo was indeed very handsome when he was young. And this is not Danzo bragging. You know, Tsunade and Shizune once went to look through the photos of Danzo when he was young. As a result, when they saw Danzo in his youth, they were surprised by Danzo's handsomeness and even blushed. It can be seen that Danzo was very good-looking when he was young. Let's get back to the topic. The body is the capital of revolution, and youth is the capital of waste. The restored young Danzo is full of confidence in the life in the next Hokage world. But then again, compared with the peaceful and prosperous world in his previous life, the danger level of the Hokage world is quite high. According to the development of the original plot, Danzo's ending is not very good, and it can be said that he will not die well. Danzo's previous misdeeds Madara. Most of the blame in the ninja world is on his head. He must have many enemies. What if the enemies come to seek revenge? What makes Danzo speechless is that he now has a saint system. Shouldn't he become a saint and win people over with virtue? Thinking of this, Danzo himself couldn't help laughing. Let Shimura Danzo, the dark of the ninja world, put down his butcher knife and become a Buddha on the spot? Why does this sound so magical? It's too damn outrageous. Just when Danzo was thinking about it, a voice sounded behind him. Danzo, the 3rd generation has something to call you. A root ninja wearing an animal mask knelt on one knee and said. Danzo turned around and said lightly, I know. When the root ninja saw Danzo's face, his eyes were obviously dulled. Yes, even though the root ninjas are called emotionless tools, when they saw Danzo's young face, their hearts, which were originally as calm as dead water, were still shocked. Danzo-sama has become younger. How is this possible? Am I under an illusion? On the way to the Hokage building, Danzo called up the system interface. Host. Danzo age, 29. 4. Indicates the Grandmaster's ability in ninjutsu and the ability to use it proficiently, Tai. 8. Indicates the Grandmaster's ability in taijutsu and the ability to use it proficiently, Jin. 3. Indicates the Grandmaster's ability in genjutsu and the ability to use it proficiently, Sin. 8. Indicates the amount of knowledge and the level of IQ, strength. 7. Starting with wrist and foot strength, indicating the physical strength of the whole body, speed. 7. Indicates the sensitivity of movement and reaction, energy. 8. Indicates the energy as the basis of chakra, seal. 4. Indicates the Grandmaster and proficiency of seals and hand seals, chakra attributes, fire, wind, earth, water, in motivation value, 0. Looking at this terrible attribute, Danzo is a little speechless. Danzo is at least a Kaga-level strongman. How come his attributes are so bad after he traveled through time? According to the setting of the Hokage Genji book, this total of 49 attributes is really garbage. Except for taijutsu, which is still acceptable. Ninjutsu and Genjutsu are simply terrible. You know, for a Kage-level warrior, the 8 attributes are usually around 70 points. In other words, the current Danzo has inherited the physical fitness of his predecessor, but cannot rely on inheriting the memory of his predecessor to gain the ability of ninjutsu and genjutsu. The current Danzo is a Kage-level warrior on the surface, but in fact he may not even be able to defeat Tsunade. Thinking of this, Danzo calmly uttered one word, "Damn." Chapter 002. Hokage Building, Hokage Office. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. "Come in." The hoarse and majestic voice of the third generation sounded. Danzo pushed the door open and walked in with a swagger. He glanced at the 3 old guys and said, "Everyone is here." "Danzo?" Udatane Koharu stared at Danzo's energetic face, and a flash of surprise flashed in his vicissitudes of life. "What secret experiment are you doing to make yourself so young?" "Everyone loves beauty, let alone a woman." Seeing Danzo, who has returned to her youthful appearance, Udatane Koharu felt a little jealous and some other little thoughts in her heart. "Can I also ask Danzo to help me turn myself back to my youthful appearance?" As everyone knows, when she was young, she was a famous beauty in the ninja world. Thinking back to the past, how many young talents fell at her feet? "I am not obliged to explain this to you, am I?" Danzo glanced at the daydreaming Udatane Koharu, then looked at the third generation and said, "What do you want me to do? Tell me now." "I'm busy." Sarutobi Hiruzen, who is in his 60s, has a head full of white hair and a vicissitudes of life face with a trace of fatigue. "You guys, you always do things that are unexpected. If you want me to talk about these salty things, then I can only say goodbye." Although he said goodbye, Danzo found a seat and sat down carelessly. "Okay, I'll tell you straight." The third generation laughed and said, "You should know about the Cloud Shinobi Village delegation and the Hyuga family. How to deal with the aftermath, tell us." As soon as the third generation finished speaking, Danzo frowned and said, "Cloud Shinobi Village and the Hyuga family? What's the matter? Explain it clearly." The third generation, Mitokado Hamura and Udatane Koharu, all looked at Danzo strangely. With the Roots Intelligence Department that is like a web, how could Danzo not know what happened at the Hyuga family's residence last night? But in fact, Danzo was really confused at the moment, because he had just traveled here not long ago. Although he inherited the original owner's memory, his mind was a mess, and he hadn't had time to sort it out. Therefore, it was normal for Danzo not to know what the third generation said. However, as a traveler, when Danzo heard that Cloud Shinobi Village and the Hyuga family appeared at the same time, his heart was inevitably moved. In the 51st year of Konoha, Hinata was 3 years old. Could it be the incident when Hinata was almost kidnapped? Last night, the leader of the Cloud Shinobi Village delegation sneaked into the Hyuga family and kidnapped the little princess of the Hyuga clan. Fortunately, they were discovered and Hyuga Hizashi killed the Cloud Shinobi leader on the spot. The third generation slowly opened his mouth and explained, "Of course, this is the Hyuga family's statement. The Cloud Shinobi Village delegation does not recognize it. Not only do they not recognize it, the delegation also sued the Hyuga clan for killing their leader without reason. They threatened that if Konoha could not give them a satisfactory explanation, the two countries would only meet on the battlefield." After listening to the simple narration of the third generation, Danzo secretly said, as expected. If the original plot had developed, Danzo would have known the final outcome of the incident. To be honest, Hyuga Hizashi died very pathetically. The Hyuga clan was originally a victim and had a great deal of reason, but because of the weakness and compromise of the Konoha high-level officials, they actually suffered secondary damage. This is a bit like something that happened in Asen country. A woman was *****D by a woman, went to the police station to report it, and was *****D by a woman again in the police station. This is really realistic and magical. War. Konoha now can no longer withstand a war. Mitokado Hamura said. "What is the attitude of the daimyo's government towards this matter?" Udatane Koharu said. The third generation pondered for a moment and said, "The daimyo doesn't want to make a big deal, and hopes to make a big deal small." After the 3 of them finished speaking, they all looked at Danzo. "Why are you looking at me?" Danzo touched his nose and said, "Danzo, do you think this matter is peace or war?" The third generation said. The third generation certainly knew that Danzo has always been a war advocate, but they were a little surprised why he was so calm today. If it were in the past, Danzo would have slammed the table and stood up. "Does my opinion matter?" Danzo pulled the corner of his mouth and sneered. "You all want peace, and I want war alone. That's 3 to 1. Does it make sense?" "Ahem." The third generation coughed awkwardly and said, "Of course your opinion is very important. For so many years, no matter how big or small, we have voted to decide." Danzo smiled and said nothing. It is said that people become more timid as they get older. This sentence is really appropriate for these three old guys. The tone of this matter is set. Tomorrow, we will convene representatives of all tribes to hold a meeting to listen to everyone's opinions. The third generation made a concluding speech. "If there is nothing else, I will leave first." Danzo stood up and suddenly stopped when he walked to the door. "By the way, I will not attend tomorrow's meeting." With that, Danzo left without looking back. This guy is still the same. Watching Danzo leave, the third generation shook his head helplessly. "It's okay if you don't come. Danzo, after all, is a root buried deep in the dark, and you, Hiruzen, are a leaf bathed in the sun." Midokado Hamura said meaningfully. "I am very interested in Danzo's secret experiment." Udatane Koharu recalled Danzo's young face in his mind and said slowly. Chapter 003. On the way back to the route, Danzo thought a lot. With his current strength, if he leaves the protection of the route, he will be killed by his enemies in a minute. Therefore, the route must be firmly in his hands. In addition, he must find a way to improve his own strength. In the future, the ninja world will be full of Kage levels and six paths. If his own strength is not good, it will be over sooner or later. So he should work hard to practice ninjutsu in the future? No, it is impossible to practice ninjutsu. Danzo directly denied this thankless task. Don't forget, Danzo is a man with a system. However, Danzo's system is a bit non-mainstream. "System, come out and talk," Danzo said silently in his heart. "Ding. May the glory of the Virgin Mary shine on the world. The Virgin Mary system serves you." A voice that still sounds strange now sounded in Danzo's mind. It is ironic that the original owner was a well-known pot king in the ninja world. He almost shouldered the blame of the entire ninja world and did a lot of dirty things that made him sore on his head and pus on his feet. Now, he is bound to a saint system. If nothing unexpected happens, a Danzo who has turned over a new leaf is slowly walking towards you. Danzo suppressed the discomfort caused by the huge contrast in his heart and said, "How can I get the moving value? Get recognition and gain moving." The system's answer is simple and clear. Danzo nodded thoughtfully. When he returned to the route, night had already fallen. Danzo washed and went to bed. However, he couldn't fall asleep on the tatami. His thoughts were flying around in his head, making him a little upset. Since he couldn't fall asleep, Danzo simply didn't fall asleep, but just closed his eyes and sorted out the various information that kept bursting out of his mind. I don't know how long it took until footsteps sounded outside the room. A shadow flashed, and Aburame Ryoma appeared in front of the door, blocking the owner of the footsteps. "It's me." Sarutobi Hiruzen's somewhat hoarse voice sounded. "Third generation master," Aburame Ryoma said respectfully. The movement outside the door certainly attracted Danzo's attention. "Old man, are you annoying?" Danzo said a little annoyed. "Being young is good." The third generation pushed the door open and saw Danzo lying on the tatami with angry eyes and smiled. "It seems that I have disturbed your sweet dream again. I said I won't attend tomorrow's meeting," Danzo said unhappily. "Ryoma, you go down first." The third generation ordered Aburame Ryoma, and then looked at Danzo. "Tomorrow's meeting is not important. What is important is what you are going to do." Since the tone of seeking peace has been set, tomorrow's meeting is just to discuss specific details, which is nothing more than a dispute between the various tribes for their own interests. Compared with this, the third generation is more concerned about what Danzo will do in secret. The two have supported and competed with each other for a lifetime, and the third generation knows Danzo's temper very well. "I don't want to do anything, I just want to have a good sleep, and then you come to ask me what I want to do in the middle of the night. Shouldn't I be the one asking what you want to do?" Danzo said. "Sleep?" The third generation nodded, a little melancholy. "I can't sleep." "You can't sleep and won't let me sleep?" Danzo said angrily. "Didn't you often do things that kept me awake before?" The third generation said. "You also said that was in the past." Danzo said, "Old man, I know what you were thinking. I also know that Cloud Shinobi Village is too bullying, but Konoha can't stand a war now." The third generation sighed and said, "We are all old, and these things should have been handed over to young people like Minato. What a pity." "Don't be a pity, people are dead." Danzo shook his head. "Yes, it was our mistake at the beginning, and Minato was killed," the third generation said. Danzo didn't respond to this. Based on the memories he sorted out about the Ninetales Rebellion, The original owner and Sarutobi Hiruzen do have an unshirkable responsibility for the death of Namikaze Minato. Let's not talk about the past. The third generation looked at Danzo and said seriously, "What do you think about the Cloud Shinobi Village delegation and the Hyuga family this time? Didn't you say you knew what I was thinking?" Danzo mocked. "Maybe," the third generation said. Danzo pondered for a moment and said, "Konoha Village was built in wars. From the first generation, to our teacher, to you Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was appointed as the third Hokage in a critical moment, and the fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato, which one didn't kill all the way through the mountains of blood and blood? But now, you choose to surrender and compromise under a little pressure. This is a shame for Konoha. Danzo, you must understand that at this time, choosing peace requires more courage than choosing war." The third generation said, F***K your courage. Danzo shouted angrily, "If you have the courage, why are you here now? You don't have the courage to bear this shame, so you want me to bear it. I tell you, Sarutobi Hiruzen, I won't take the blame." Obviously, this conversation ended in a very unpleasant way. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face was extremely gloomy when he left, but Danzo turned a blind eye to it. "I, Shimura Danzo, will also be a good person bathed in the sun in the future, and of course I can't take the blame randomly. Ryoma."
Yes.
"Contact the daimyo of various countries. I have something to tell you." "Yes, sir." Chapter 004. The next day, Hokage Building. The Konoha Village Representatives Conference was held as scheduled. Third generation, Udatane Koharu, Mitokado Hamura, and other Konoha high-level officials sat on the main seats. "Danzo guy is really not coming?" Udatane Koharu glanced at the empty seat next to him and frowned. "Let him go," third generation said lightly. "It's time, let's start." Mitokado Hamura adjusted his glasses and said. The third generation nodded, glanced at the representatives of the various tribes below, and said, "I believe everyone is very clear about the fact that the leader of the Cloud Shinobi Village delegation broke into the Hyuga family at night. Now Cloud Shinobi Village wants to take advantage of this issue and even start a war. What do you think about this?"
Tell us.
After a short silence, Narashikaku was the first to express his opinion. "Although our Konoha defeated Cloud Shinobi Village in the Third Shinobi World War just a few years ago, we also paid a heavy price and have not been able to fully recover. This time Cloud Shinobi Village is obviously well prepared and wants to use this incident to provoke a war and avenge the previous shame. Peace is hard won. Konoha Village still needs time to recuperate, and we must not let Konoha fall into the quagmire of war again. Therefore, I think it is better to negotiate peace. The Ino Shikicho tribes have always advanced and retreated together, and the Akamichi and Yamanaka tribes of course immediately seconded the proposal. Then the Inazuka clan and the Sarutobi clan followed closely, with the Hokage clan taking the lead. More than half of the clans in the village, big and small, supported peace. In fact, the Hokage clan had already reached an agreement among themselves, and those small and medium-sized clans that depended on the Hokage clan only needed to take sides, and their opinions were not very important. As for the two major bloodline families, Uchiha and Hyuga, they did not make any statement, because they knew that opposing opinions could not change anything. "We are not afraid of war, but peace is so precious. I am glad that everyone can put the overall situation first. Everything is under control." The third generation nodded with satisfaction and said, "The Cloud Shinobi Village delegation said that as long as the murderer is handed over, the matter can end peacefully. This request is obviously very unreasonable. What do you think?" "This is impossible." Hyuga Hizashi refused angrily. "Cloud Shinobi broke into my Hyuga main family's residence at night and kidnapped my daughter. I shot him to death and did nothing wrong. Cloud Shinobi Village took advantage of the situation just to get the Byakugan of my Hyuga family. The Byakugan is the foundation of the Hyuga clan, and it is impossible to hand it over to outsiders. There is no room for negotiation on this matter. Obviously, Cloud Shinobi Village wants to get the Byakugan, and war is just a means of blackmail," Uchiha Fugaku said. Regarding the matter of outsiders plotting against the bloodline limit of the bloodline family, Uchiha's position must be highly consistent with that of the Hyuga family. "War is not a joke." Udatane Kohara glanced at Fugaku, then looked at Hyuga Hizashi. "As the head of the clan, you should know how cruel war is. If sacrificing the small self can achieve the greater self, it is worth it. I can die, but the Byakugan must not fall into the hands of outsiders," Hyuga Hizashi said firmly. "Of course the Byakugan must not fall into the hands of outsiders." Udatane Kohart changed the subject. "Hizashi, I remember you have a twin brother, right?" "What do you mean?" Hyuga Hizashi frowned. It's just a substitute. Udatane Koharu said, Cloud Shinobi Village wants a murderer, so just satisfy them.
This.
Hyuga Hizashi thought of his brother's face and hesitated. Hizashi, this is already the smallest price that can be paid to settle this matter. The overall situation is more important. Midokado Hamura spoke at the right time. Facing the gazes, Hyuga Hizashi sighed inwardly and finally nodded. Bang! At this moment, an umbu wearing an animal mask suddenly appeared in the meeting room. What's the matter? Third generation stood up and asked with a frown. If there were no special circumstances, umbu would not appear so abruptly to interrupt the meeting. The group? Lord Danzo sent people to kill all the Cloud Shinobi Village envoys who stayed in the village. Umbu reported. What? Udatane Koharu slammed the table and stood up. The rest of the people were also shocked by the news. Danzo didn't come to the meeting. It turned out that he was acting privately. They are all here. A somewhat gentle voice sounded at the window, interrupting everyone's surprise. When everyone looked back, a sedan chair stopped at the window at some point. Danzo lifted the curtain and walked out of the sedan chair, entering the meeting room through the window. Just in time. They are all here. Danzo smiled and said to everyone, Let me explain briefly. I accidentally killed all those Cloud Shinobi Village guys, and it seems that there is no need to continue the meeting, because there is no need to talk. Let's just go to war. What the hell are you doing? Sarutobi Hiruzen roared. He thought he knew Danzo very well, but he still underestimated Danzo's ability to make trouble, and he directly flipped the table. Is this Danzo? Uchiha Fugaku looked at Danzo in surprise. The representatives of other tribes were also a little surprised. They were all surprised at Danzo's young face now, and this guy seemed to be smiling. Danzo could actually still smile. Opening his mouth, Danzo showed 2 rows of white teeth and looked at the people in front of him, saying, Doesn't Cloud Shinobi Village want to avenge the previous shame? Then let's meet on the battlefield. Everyone must understand one thing. Peace will survive if it is sought through struggle, and peace will die if it is sought through compromise. Danzo. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes were like a sharp knife. I need an explanation. His words were calm, but the murderous intent in them was felt by everyone present. There is nothing to explain. Konoha was originally the victim. It is absolutely impossible to send the boy from the Hyuga family out. Danzo said seriously. But Konoha can't stand the war now. When the teacher died, we couldn't stand the war either. Facing Sarutobi Hiruzen's questioning, Danzo's tone was unyielding, looking around at everyone present with anger in his tone. When the second-generation leader died in the war, our situation was much worse than it is now. But at that time, we didn't want to avoid it at all. His words made everyone stunned. You are old. Danzo's voice suddenly raised, and his handsome face was full of seriousness. You are all old. Whether it is Hiruzen or Koharu, or anyone else, you are all old. But I am not. Chapter 005. Neither Sarutobi Hiruzen nor anyone else stopped Danzo from continuing to speak. Nor did they interrupt. They looked at Danzo and did not refute. They were indeed old, but they were also more experienced. When they were young, they could not see as far as they do now, but now it is different, whether it is Sarutobi Hiruzen or other representatives of various tribes. Behind them is a mountain called family responsibility. They can't continue to maintain that tough and passionate attitude like Danzo. They have too many things to consider. This time I asked to lead the team to fight. If I lose, I will end my life on the battlefield. Danzo looked at everyone indifferently and made his own declaration. He stood straight, and his handsome and young face was indifferent. But standing by the window, the sunlight shone on Danzo, giving people an extremely friendly illusion. Is this still Danzo? The leader of the route, Danzo, who is full of calculations in the dark? Everyone looked at him in disbelief. Even the route ninjas present were also a little stunned. Do you think this is so easy? You lead the team. Who do you want to take? Koharu reacted and shouted without giving Danzo any face. Konoha doesn't have many troops to accompany you to die. Other villages around are eyeing it covetously. It is a mistake to go to war with Cloud Shinobi Village at this time. Danzo didn't look at Udatane Koharu, but looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen and said, It's not the same as before. The friction between their villages is not small. After the second generation died, what was our situation at that time? The village's combat power was seriously insufficient. But so what? If anyone dared to humiliate Konoha at that time, which time did we not fight for it with our flesh and blood? Danzo's words were inexplicably infectious. The few people present were already old, and they all had at least one life and death experience. Every word of Danzo seemed to take them back to the past, back to the era of passion. Hiruzen, you are old, but I am not. Danzo looked directly at Sarutobi Hiruzen, and a blazing fire ignited in his black pupils. Konoha's White Fang, Konoha Sannin, Yellow Flash, or other heroes, which one is not cultivated by us with great effort? Each of them, which one can't become a strong man who can stand alone? Hatake Kakashi, Might Guy, Ganma, Asuma, which one of them is not talented? As long as they are given enough opportunities and pressure, they can make their own names like White Fang and Orochimaru, and add sunshine to the big tree of Konoha. And don't you think the same as I do? If I do what you want, you will support me, right? In the high-spirited speech, Danzo completely replaced the passion that a militant should have, and infected everyone present with passion and blood. Perfect. Danzo silently gave himself a full score for this wave of performance in his heart. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes were a little complicated, and he didn't answer. He just looked at Danzo with a confused look on his face. Aren't the deaths of those people related to you? How can you have the face to say such a thing? But to be honest, Danzo spoke to his heart. If these words were what Danzo said to him last night, he would definitely not have held this meeting with a compromising and evasive attitude today. Although he agreed in his heart, Sarutobi Hiruzen also understood that this matter should not be led by Danzo. Danzo's methods were too extreme. Whether it was before or this time when he sent people to attack the Lightning Country delegation, he completely ignored the overall situation. Danzo wanted to come out from behind the scenes, but Sarutobi Hiruzen would not give him this opportunity. Danzo, this matter is not as simple as you think. Shikaka's eyes flashed with wisdom. Although he didn't know why Danzo had changed so much, now was not the time to act on impulse. The village doesn't have enough soldiers, food, or weapons to support a war. And the daimyo is also opposed to this matter. Without the financial support of the daimyo, we have no chance at all. I will deal with the daimyo. Danzo glanced at Shikaku and Kaido, and then looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen. The question now is whether you are willing to support me, or whether you are willing to swallow this anger. Danzo looked at Sarutobi. Others also looked at him. Although the decision must be made through a meeting vote, as a Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen's decision can often represent at least half of the voices in the village. And Sarutobi is now unable to speak out. Danzo set a trap for him, provoking the inner fighting spirit of these people while throwing the problem to him. If he considers the overall situation and endures this time, he will undoubtedly leave a cowardly impression in the hearts of these people, and it will be difficult to manage in the future. But if you agree with Danzo's decision... Chapter 006. How do you plan to convince the daimyo? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked. If I convince the daimyo, will you support me? Danzo did not answer his question, but asked instead. The atmosphere fell silent. No one else interrupted, and they looked at each other quietly. Old thing. Old fox. Danzo looked directly at Sarutobi, and Sarutobi also stared at him closely. Both of them cursed in their hearts, but they did not show any expression on the surface. Danzo was getting harder and harder to understand. Sarutobi muttered in his heart, sighed, and finally spoke. If you can convince the daimyo, I will not oppose your opinion, but I will not interfere with other people's choices. I can make decisions on weapons and food, but you need to convince the people who go into battle yourself. F***K. Danzo cursed in his heart. He knew very well how low the original owner's popularity was in the village. With his popularity, if he wanted to pull a group of subordinates to accompany him into battle, except for the root ninja, probably no one else would follow. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the old fox, knew that the matter was already a foregone conclusion, but he still played this trick. How cautious he was of himself. It was a pity that the original owner had been blaming him for his whole life. The atmosphere in the meeting room was a little dull. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not speak, and sat in the main seat calmly looking at Danzo. War is not a joke. Since Danzo has made up his mind and intends to take the lead, he will not refuse. Thinking about it carefully, Danzo's decision is not bad for him. On the one hand, it can weaken Danzo's hidden power in the village, and on the other hand, it can regain the face of Cloud Shinobi Village. And as long as he is still sitting in the position of Hokage, no matter what Danzo does, the one who will praise him in the end will only be Sarutobi Hiruzen. At that time, he will gain both fame and fortune, and he will definitely not lose out. No one responded for a long time, and Danzo looked ugly. Since Sarutobi Hiruzen just made his proposal, no one on the scene responded to Danzo. Ahem. Finally, Hyuga Hizashi broke the silence, stood up and said, If Lord Danzo can convince the daimyo, The Hyuga family is willing to follow Lord Danzo into battle. In public, Hyuga Hizashi should do his part for Konoha. Privately, Danzo's actions this time protected his brother's life and the reputation of the Hyuga clan, and he should also do something for Danzo's expedition. At least, Danzo should not be allowed to go to the front line alone with the route to die. Facing Hyuga Hizashi, who suddenly stood up, everyone else had their own thoughts in their hearts. And Sarutobi Hiruzen also frowned. Since Uchiha Madara rebelled against the village, although the Hyuga family has been the second largest family in the village, most of their behaviors and decisions tend to be neutral. And after Sarutobi Hiruzen came to power, he has been following Sarutobi's footsteps. I didn't expect that he would choose to support Danzo this time. Did the coercion just now make Hizashi angry? The third generation thought to themselves. Don't worry, Hizashi. I will convince the daimyo even for Konoha. Danzo finally forced a smile on his face. Although he was more confident that the war would not start this time, he was not sure of the outcome if he really took the route into battle. As soon as Danzo finished speaking, he heard Uchiha Fugaku standing up and saying, "If the daimyo agrees, I will also lead the Uchiha people to join this counterattack." After this, the third generation, who had just frowned, looked a little ugly. The other families looked at each other. The first and second families began to support Danzo, so they had nothing to hesitate and spoke up. A small part of the original Hokage faction, led by Hyuga, spoke out to support Danzo, and even Uchiha, who had always been rejected by the village and had a bad relationship with Danzo, supported him. The third generation felt cold in their hearts. What did Danzo do in secret? In fact, this scene surprised Danzo himself. He looked at Uchiha Fugaku in a daze. The original owner inherited the purpose of the second generation and was extremely repulsive to Uchiha. From memory, every time this guy met Uchiha, he was tense and never calm. But this time, Uchiha Fugaku actually supported him, and Danzo was a little confused. But he was not the original Danzo, and he did not necessarily agree with the second generation's purpose. Since Uchiha intended to repair the relationship with him, Danzo would naturally not refuse, and smiled at Fugaku in a friendly manner with a gentle smile on his face. His smile made Uchiha Fugaku tremble all over, and he regretted his decision just now. Putting aside the positions between Danzo and Uchiha, Fugaku actually still supported Danzo and agreed with some of Danzo's decisions in his heart. For example, this Cloud Shinobi Village incident. When he heard that Danzo would not attend the meeting, he thought that this old guy had given up his insistence, but he did not expect that this guy would be so cruel and kill people directly, successfully disrupting the peace talks of the Hokage system. Fugaku, or the Uchiha clan, is also a member of the pro-war faction. A meeting started with everyone in a friendly manner. With Danzo's interference, it successfully turned into a mobilization meeting. This is definitely a victory for the war faction. With all the news blocked, the people of Cloud Shinobi Village had no idea that Danzo would lead Konoha this time and make the decision to fight. In their hearts, the elderly Sarutobi Hiruzen would definitely choose to seek peace instead of starting a war. Cloud Shinobi Village already believed that the Byakugan was in their pocket. Danzo smiled and said goodbye to the representatives of the major families. Only the third generation, Udatane Koharu and Mitokado Hamura, were left in the conference room. "You have changed a lot." Udatane Koharu was the first to speak, looking at Danzo with a look of inquiry. At first, she also opposed Danzo's decision, but then inexplicably, she was persuaded by Danzo and did not speak out to stop him. Cloud Shinobi Village is also under great pressure. Although Iwagakure Zanoki is older than the monkey, he is much stronger in his heart. Danzo looked at the third generation, who looked unhappy in the main seat and couldn't help but sneer again. "Humph." Sarutobi Hiruzen snorted coldly and didn't refute. Udatane Koharu and Mitokado Hamura also didn't speak. In fact, they all understood this matter in their hearts, but Konoha couldn't afford to gamble. Since the First Shinobi World War, Konoha Village has always been the target of public criticism. In which war has Konoha faced a ninja village fairly? Every time, several large ninja villages were mixed with a large number of small ninja villages, rushing over in a mess. Every time Konoha participated in the war, it was against the majority. Although it won, the losses were also heavy. They didn't think that if the war really started this time, only Cloud Shinobi Village would be the enemy of Konoha. Read books every day on the 11th. Chapter 007. If you have nothing to say, I'll leave first. Seeing that they didn't say anything, Danzo didn't want to stay with these old guys any longer. Although his body was of a high rank in the ninja world, the soul in his body was only 20 years old, in the prime of life. "Danzo." Just as he was about to leave, Sarutobi called him. Staring at the handsome, young, and somewhat unpredictable old friend Danzo, Sarutobi Hiruzen asked, "What kind of existence is Konoha to you?"
Home.
Danzo answered without hesitation. On the way back, Danzo didn't let the root ninja carry the sedan chair, but strolled slowly on the street alone, occasionally buying some snacks and occasionally saying hello to familiar people. Just like an ordinary civilian, living a peaceful and harmonious life. Youth. Just work hard to do frog jumps. Yes. Teacher Guy. From a distance, a familiar roar was heard, accompanied by hurried footsteps. Two figures, one big and one small, wearing green tights, jumped over from the street entrance. The two people's weird dress and behavior made the civilians on the street laugh, but there was no mockery in their laughter, but it was full of friendliness. "Guy, is this your new apprentice? Come to my house for barbecue after training. You will have the strength to train after eating. I'll give you a 20% discount." Greeting kindly, Guy and Shaoli did frog jumps while responding to the familiar people. "Guy teacher, it's Danzo." Shaoli suddenly pointed at Danzo, who was sitting on the street eating, and said. In a hurry, the two green figures kept frog jumps even when they came to Danzo. "Danzo." Shaoli jumped towards Danzo with admiration and respect on his face, and shouted. Danzo smiled and looked at the two people. Although he thought their behavior was a little funny, he didn't mean to look down on them. He knew the future. The two men in front of him were both strong men worthy of respect. Whether in terms of heart or strength, they were recognized by Danzo. "How about it? Guy is very suitable to be your master," Danzo said with a smile. He was very gentle to Shaoli, the first person who recognized and admired him. He met Shaoli by chance when he went out in the morning. He still remembered this young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. After a simple conversation, Danzo learned that Shaoli did not have the talent to become a ninja, but he was unwilling to be a civilian. He happened to meet Might Guy, who came out for morning exercise. It was natural that Danzo introduced Shaoli to the famous teacher he should meet in a few years, Might Guy. Shaoli and Guy are indeed a pair made in heaven. Master and apprentice, the two hit it off at first sight, and it was a pity that they met too late. This also made Danzo get recognition and gratitude from Shaoli, and thus got the first point of touching value. "Teacher Guy is very good." Shaoli looked at Teacher Guy, who was grinning next to him, and nodded seriously. "Might Guy, Danzo, thank you for introducing Shaoli to me, so that I can continue my youth." Might Guy stretched out a hand and raised his thumb, showing his white teeth. Danzo couldn't help but twitch his mouth. "Kaido, it's good if it's suitable, it's good if it's suitable." After thinking for a while, he said again, "But it just so happens that I just have something to ask you." Looking at Might Guy, Danzo had an idea in his mind. "Might Guy, please speak." Might Guy Kaido, but his heart was tight. Although he looked silly on the surface, he was not stupid in his heart. Danzo's reputation in the village was not very good before. His good friend Kakashi used to work under Danzo. Kakashi had warned Guy not to contact Danzo. But this time, because of Shaoli, Might Guy still hopes to repay Danzo for this favor. "It's noon now, let's find a place to have a meal together," Danzo suggested. In the hot barbecue restaurant, Danzo booked a private room and sat opposite Might Guy. Shaoli helped the two people grill the meat. "You should know about the recent events between the village and Cloud Shinobi Village, right?" After sitting down, Danzo asked first. Although Might Guy did not have the talent to become a ninja like his father Might Guy, but because of the 8 inner gates and hard work, he is now a special jonin. He should have received some information about the events of Cloud Shinobi Village. Might Guy nodded, and his face became serious. It seems that it is not easy to repay his favor this time, but he does not regret having a disciple like Shaoli. The third generation intends to sacrifice Hyuga Hayashi's younger brother and use Hyuga Hizashi's life to negotiate with Cloud Shinobi Village, Danzo said as he stretched out his chopsticks to pick up the grilled meat and eat it. All the tribes in the village agreed to this matter, and they planned to hold their breath. Shaoli's hands trembled as he grilled the meat. Although he did not know what the Cloud Shinobi Village incident was, he still felt a little incredible that he sacrificed people from his own village to negotiate. Although Shaoli's action was subtle, Danzo and Might Guy noticed it. Danzo didn't say anything, quietly waiting for Might Guy's reaction. "Although it's a bit regrettable, I still respect the village's decision." Might Guy expressed his opinion. He was not a child of a big family. As a commoner, he was already very satisfied with his current status and strength. "Your answer is not youthful and passionate," Danzo said, a little disappointed. He thought he could hear some passionate words from Might Guy. Unexpectedly, this guy was the same as the old guy Sarutobi Hiruzen. Might Guy opened his mouth, but still didn't say anything, his face flushed. These things were not something he could decide, but Danzo's words were like a needle piercing his heart, making him extremely concerned. I have sent people to kill those people in Cloud Shinobi Village. It is impossible to negotiate peace. Danzo took a sip of tea, a little regretful that there is no happy water in this world. What? Might Guy stared at Danzo with wide eyes. Xiaoli was also a little surprised. Chapter 008. Konoha has always stood up straight since the establishment of the first generation. I cannot let this kind of thing of begging for mercy start for my generation. Even if Sarutobi Hiruzen makes a decision as Hokage, I will oppose it, Danzo said. Although the words were calm, they made Lee and Might Guy feel inexplicably excited. Since peace talks are impossible, and this matter was originally provoked by Cloud Shinobi Village, I will fight to the end. Therefore, I will take on everything and lead the team to the front line to fight Cloud Shinobi. The third generation agreed to my decision, but he only had one request, that I need to recruit the people who will go with me. Danzo silently stated his purpose. And I like you, Might Guy. I think you are a person who is not willing to be ordinary and is willing to dedicate everything to the village. I want you to be a sharp knife for my expedition this time. I think you can let them see how much our passionate men of Konoha can pay for this family. He stared straight at Might Guy opposite him, his eyes full of appreciation and eagerness. Although Might Guy may be wary of his contact at first, Danzo is familiar with Might Guy's character, and it is not difficult for him to break this vigilance. Xiaoli was trembling and his eyes were blazing, and Might Guy had experienced a lot after all. Although his heart was already aroused, he still endured it. His fists under the table were clenched tightly. He was a member of the Hokage faction, and he had heard a little about the dispute between the third generation and Danzo. But this did not affect the 17-year-old boy's blood boiling. You know, Guy, your father actually surprised me. Seeing that Might Guy was still insisting, Danzo's face was full of gentle smiles, and he picked up another piece of meat and said slowly, Might Guy, this guy is really an admirable person. As soon as this sentence came out, Might Guy's face, which had been hesitant, suddenly raised his face and stared at Danzo. Burning life. Opening the 8 inner gates formation. Fighting against the 7 people of Mist Shinobi with 1 person and winning the record of 4 deaths and 3 escapes. He used his life to protect your life and his own dignity. To be honest, before he showed this record, I didn't think much of him, and even other people in the village sneered at this so-called effort. Danzo's words reached the ears of the two, and Might Guy's eyes had unconsciously turned red. He remembered that his father had given up his life to explain the road of youth to him. Konoha Jinin might die. He used his life to make me remember his name, and also made many people in the village remember your name. Efforts are not without rewards. In the bustling barbecue restaurant, Danzo skillfully outlined a beautiful dream. Xiaoli, who was helping the 2 people grill meat seriously, was stunned. These words sounded familiar to him, just like what Danzo said when he met him in the morning. Danzo also noticed the changes in Xiaoli, looked at him, and said to Might Guy, This is why I introduced him to you when I saw Xiaoli. He looks a lot like your father, more like you as a son. Might Guy blushed a little. He felt that he had embarrassed his father. Your father became famous in one battle, but he only left a mark in the hearts of the people in the village. Don't you want to make a name for yourself, so that your descendants can proudly say in front of outsiders, I am the disciple of Konoha Might Guy. Just like Konoha's White Fang, Yellow Flash, Danzo's voice was like a magic, making the 2 people present fall unconsciously. Can I? Might Guy asked in a trance. Of course. Your father has proved his strength. Now it's up to you to prove to the world that in this world, not only talented people can be called geniuses, but people who work hard can also be called geniuses. That's a hard-working genius. Touching value +1. A prompt box suddenly appeared in front of Danzo. He was ecstatic in his heart, but on the surface he remained calm and stretched out his hand to click in the air. Main attribute panel name. Shimura Danzō. Touching value 2. Touching value can be used to improve the 8 attributes of the Book of Formation. Originally, Danzo just wanted to convince Might Guy to be his thug, but he didn't expect that this guy actually recognized him because of his few words. While feeling happy, Danzo guessed the reason in his heart. To a large extent, it was because he recognized his father and gave him a clear goal. Although the ninjas in this world are very wary, at the same time, because they often wander between life and death, they care about a certain thing or person very much. If it involves what they care about, they will let go of their guard or reason. What Might Guy cares about is his father might die. Danzo, I will do my best to live up to your words. Might Guy's eyes seemed to be burning with flames. He felt that Danzo was not as sinister as Kakashi said. Instead, he wished he could meet Danzo earlier. If Danzo knew what he was thinking, he would laugh out loud. Fortunately, the original owner did not send anyone to contact Might Guy because of his enthusiastic appearance. If he had left a bad impression on him, Danzo would not be able to get his approval so easily. Lee, since you have decided to follow Danzo to fight, I don't have much time to teach you. We can't waste time here. Might Guy stood up from his seat and shouted excitedly. Yes, Teacher Guy. Xiaoli also stood up with blood boiling. Mouth persuasion is indeed the most buggy existence among all ninjutsu. Danzo couldn't help but sigh. The two said goodbye quickly and Danzo left the barbecue restaurant. Looking at the backs of the two, Danzo silently swept away the remaining food. Since he has made a vow to lead the team, although he knows that this battle is unlikely to start, he still has to prepare first. At least he still has to practice for a while, at least master the things that the Pot King should know. Standing up to pay the bill, Danzo hurried out of the barbecue restaurant. He was going to rush to the homes of those retired root ninjas to express his condolences. The fastest way to improve strength is undoubtedly through the Holy Mother system on his body. Root ninjas, because they often hide in the dark, rarely communicate with others, and hide everything in their hearts, they generally have deep flaws in their hearts. As their leader, Danzo naturally knows his subordinates very well. He decided to take advantage of the time to get in touch with these root ninjas, ask about their recent situation, and win their hearts to try to get a few more points of touching points. Read books every day on the 11th. Chapter 009. The Fire Country Daimyo's Mansion. Aburame Ryoma, carrying Danzo's souvenirs, had basically no obstacles in the Fire Country. Several other letters had been delivered to the target through spies from other countries. And the letter to the Fire Country Daimyo was delivered by Aburame Ryoma in person. Umbu's people? As soon as he approached the daimyo's mansion, a figure wearing a ninja vest suddenly appeared in front of Ryoma. Ryoma saw the man's appearance clearly, and after confirming that it was correct, he said calmly, Danzo has a letter to deliver to the daimyo. The man in front of him was called Sarutobi Asuma, the son of the third Hokage, from Konoha village, and joined the 12 Guardians to protect the daimyo. The 12 Guardians are a daimyo guard team composed of the elite among the 12 Jonin. Ninjas who can reach the level of Jonin are extremely rare in the ninja world, let alone the elite among the Jonin. But in this daimyo's mansion, there are 12 people who specialize in protecting the daimyo. Danzo? Asuma frowned. If it was a letter from Danzo, then the man in front of him should be a ninja from the root. He had not heard his father say that there was anything that needed to be confirmed with the daimyo recently. Come in. As they were both from Konoha village, Asuma did not stop Aburame Ryoma, but followed him silently. He was a little confused. What letter did Danzo send to the daimyo without telling his father? Arriving at the main house, the daimyo, who had been notified, sat on a cotton mat and drank tea. Seeing Ryoma coming, a smile appeared on his chubby face. Danzo, what letter do you have for me? The daimyo asked. Before Ryoma could answer, another guardian ninja standing next to the daimyo shouted, Why don't you take off your mask when you see the daimyo? Asuma, who followed Ryoma into the house, frowned and looked at the man who scolded him. This man was not from Konoha village, but an elite ninja trained by the daimyo. He had an inexplicable hostility towards the ninjas of Konoha. When he first came to the daimyo, this guy often made things difficult for him. The identity of the ninjas of the root is secretive, and they will not take off their masks. Please forgive me, daimyo. Asuma explained for Ryoma. How presumptuous. The man was about to say something, but the daimyo waved his hand and said lazily, Forget it, I don't want to see the ugly faces of these civilians. The smile on his chubby face became a little stiff, and his eyes stared at Ryoma, waiting for his reaction. Ryoma did not react at all to the humiliation of the two men. He calmly handed over the letter and disappeared as a black shadow. Konoha seemed a little quiet under the night. The entire Konoha village is now only allowed to enter but not leave. Before dawn, the ninjas have hurriedly gathered for drills. In the past few days, civilians have also felt a slightly different situation. I heard that there will be another war. That's right. My son has to go to the training ground every day before the sun comes out. What a world! Hearing the discussions on the street, Danzo's face was full of sorrow. He failed to win people's hearts again. Since Might Guy was convinced a few days ago and contributed a little touching value, Danzo has been lobbying among the ninjas he knows who have emotional shortcomings. With the premise of seniority and the Cloud Shinobi Village as the purpose, Although these ninjas don't want to contact him, they can only listen to him patiently one by one. One sentence, two sentences. Danzo applied his lifelong learning to Ultimate. Knowing the emotional defects of these people in advance, the persuasion process seemed unusually smooth. These ninjas who have experienced war and are far more emotional than civilians are all excited under Danzo's conquest, and the effect is very good. But it is impossible for everyone to be convinced by Danzo's persuasion. There are still many people who don't care about this kind of paper talk. Clicking on the status bar, he just came out of the home of a retired root ninja who was not very friendly to him. So he did not get his recognition and naturally did not get any touching points. The 8 points of touching points obtained were used on the ninja attribute, raising it from 4 to 5, and Danzo's total attribute finally reached 50 points. Details are as follows: Ninja, 5 Tertiary, 8 Illusion, 3 Wise, 8 Strength, 7 Speed, 7 Energy, 8 Seal, 4 Total. 50. Here is the rule of adding points and consuming touching points. From 1 to 2, consume 1 touching point. From 2 to 3, consume 2 touching points. From 3 to 4, consume 4 touching points. From 4 to 5, consume 8 touching points, and so on. From 9 to 10, consume 256 touching points. In other words, if Danzo wants to max out Ninja, he still needs 486 touching points. And to max out all 8 attributes, thousands of touching points are needed. This is definitely a very difficult task for Danzo. He needs time to strengthen his own strength. Although there are almost no people in the village who dare to fight him, there are many people who want to fight him. He tried to seal with his hands, but it was a little awkward and stiff. Danzo sighed helplessly. He had no experience in this kind of seal casting in his previous life. Although he had the memory of the original owner as a teacher, he was still lacking in the actual performance. At least in terms of seal casting speed, Danzo might not even be as good as a genin now. Genin. Thinking of this title, Danzo suddenly remembered that the genin of Konoha Village was not ordinary. It should be worse than Chunin. Danzo silently corrected his evaluation of his seal casting speed in his heart. However, this matter is not urgent for the time being. There is no news about the letter sent to the daimyo of the Land of Fire, and the news about the killing of the Cloud Shinobi Village delegation has not been passed on. As long as he accumulates enough moving points and maxes out the physical skills first, even if he does not use ninjutsu, those guys can't do anything to him. Nowadays, he knows that there are still many root ninjas who can provide him with moving points and have emotional defects. These root ninjas used to be loyal to him on the surface, but it was more because of the curse seal. But now it is different. Having lived 2 lives, Danzo's brainwashing ability is not much worse than that guy Orochimaru. Under the guidance of strength, status, fame, and fortune, these people who contributed to the moving value, whether on the surface or in their hearts, have completely recognized and admired Danzo. As long as they don't really do things that are too bad for their character, these people will not betray Danzo. What smells so good? At noon, Danzo, who was strolling around, smelled the aroma of ramen. Looking up, what came into view was a familiar noodle shop. Chapter 010. When the curtain was lifted, there were already a few customers sitting in the small noodle shop. Juan, is that you? It was a bit like the open kitchen in the previous life. The curtain was lifted and the bell rang. Shouta, who was cooking the ingredients, turned back with a smile. But when he saw Danzo's face, his expression became a little strange. Danzo smiled and looked at him and said, "It's been a while since I saw Shouta." The young man back then has become a greasy uncle. "I hope your cooking skills have improved." They are all old friends, and Danzo was not surprised that Shouta recognized him at the first time. After all, his appearance now is when this body is 20 years old, and the period of his 20s was when Danzo often came to Ichiraku noodle shop. Shouta's most profound memory of Danzo only stayed when Danzo was in his 20s. Although Shouta was a little surprised that Danzo was still so young, Danzo was not the only one who maintained a young appearance, so he didn't care much. "Old? You ninjas don't look old at all." Seeing his old friend, Shouta's face was full of nostalgia. With Tsunadeheim as a precedent, it was not difficult for Danzo to maintain his youthful appearance. "Staying young, what would you like to eat?" Shouta asked, handing the menu to Danzo. The menu was different from the one in his memory, and Danzo couldn't recognize which one tasted the same as in his memory. "Kaido, just a big bowl of signature ramen?" "Okay." Shouta smiled. It was a happy thing for old customers to come back. Looking at the customers in groups of 3 or 2, Danzo asked with some doubt, "I heard that you have a daughter. Hasn't she started to help you yet?" "I should be about 10 years old now. This is in the Hokage world. If she didn't go to the ninja school, as a civilian, should help her parents take over the business after a certain age. Speaking of his daughter, Shouda's face was filled with a happy smile. Kaido, she has just started to help me. She has to learn the basics of handling ingredients in the kitchen. As he said, he shouted to the kitchen. Come out and say hello. Got it. A crisp and capable voice sounded, and a beautiful girl wrapped in a white apron came out of the kitchen. Because of handling ingredients, she inevitably had a little blood on her body. This is Uncle Danzo. Shouda introduced her. Danzo's face froze. Uncle? And looked at the young face in the noodle shop with some strangeness. Uncle? Even if this person looks a little mature, should he be called uncle? Full of doubts in his heart, still stumbled and called, Hello, Uncle Danzo. Danzo opened his mouth to explain something, but finally sighed. Uncle is uncle, who makes him senior. Slurp, slurp. The noodles are very elastic, and the soup is delicious. Danzo ate one bowl after another. As a ninja, Danzo's body consumed a lot of food and had a big appetite. In the small noodle shop, Handad occasionally exchanged a few words with the customers at the stall. The atmosphere was harmonious. Danzo did not join them and dealt with the ramen in the bowl seriously. Ring, ring, ring. The sound of the curtain being lifted. It's Naruto. Handad saw the person coming and looked at Danzo, who was eating noodles silently with a stiff face. He raised his smile and greeted Naruto. Silence. The customers who were still laughing at the stall suddenly quieted down. After looking back at the pitiful figure standing at the door, they turned cold and hurriedly paid the bill and left. In the noisy noodle shop, only Danzo was left, and Naruto, who was standing behind him and was a little at a loss. Uncle Handad, have I caused you trouble again? Naruto's childish voice was crying. He never shed tears when he was bullied by others. But the uncle was very kind to him. But he made him lose business, which made Naruto very concerned. But he was really hungry. No, how could it be? What are you going to eat today, little Naruto? A trace of heartache flashed across the face of the hand, and he quickly asked Naruto to sit down. Others don't know Naruto's identity, but how could Shouda, who has been stationed in Konoha village for many years and has a wide network of contacts, not know it? But the more he knows, the more he feels pity for Naruto. Naruto carefully glanced at Danzo, who was still at the stall, walked away from him, and came to the other side of the noodle shop. I picked up an Ichiraka ramen cash coupon at the door today. Naruto excitedly came to his seat and sat down, holding a note in his little arm. Shouda silently took the note from Naruto's hand and said with a smile, Okay, this cash coupon can buy 3 bowls of ramen. Today is the first bowl. I'll write down the remaining 2 bowls for you. Naruto is here. Shouda shouted to the back of the noodle shop, where his daughter had been processing ingredients. Why are you here just now? Shouted dissatisfiedly as she walked out of the back kitchen. Did the little guy finally notice the cash coupon she threw at the door? In order to let this guy eat and take care of his self-esteem, thought for a long time before she came up with the cash voucher method. No more customers came into the noodle shop, and it was quiet. Handbeater also took a break at this time, moved a stool and sat down next to Naruto, listening to him tell his interesting stories. The two listened to Naruto's words very carefully, but it can be heard that all the interesting stories in Naruto's mouth are only about him. Danzo didn't speak, lowered his head to eat noodles, and paid attention to Naruto's words. His face was calm, but there was a little sigh in his heart. This incident was deeply engraved in the memory left by the Pot King. Danzo knew the reason for Naruto's current situation. Although Naruto was chatting with Handbeater, his eyes looked at Danzo from time to time. This uncle didn't seem to have that kind of malice. Naruto thought to himself, and couldn't help but look at Danzo again. Noticing Naruto's gaze, Danzo raised his head and met his azure blue eyes. Clear and pure. Naruto was like a frightened deer when Danzo looked at him like this, and turned his head back to pretend that he was not peeking. Also noticed that the man she called uncle before did not stay away because of Naruto's identity. She couldn't help but look at Danzo curiously. Seeing Danzo staring at Naruto expressionlessly, Shouda smiled awkwardly and came to Danzo, blocking his gaze from Naruto, and said, Old friend, after eating the noodles, shouldn't you pay the bill? He was a little worried that Danzo had bad thoughts about Naruto like those people outside. This old friend was already a jonin when he was young, and his current identity should not be simple. Naruto has a bad reputation in the village, but he is really a good kid. Is he going to drive him away? Danzo looked at Shouda's embarrassed look, frowned, and couldn't help sighing again in his heart. After he came to this world, he did not take the blame for Sarutobi Hiruzen, but he could not get rid of the sins that the Pot King had committed before. Strictly speaking, he and Naruto actually had a grudge. But Danzo still decided to contact Naruto. Standing up, regardless of the hand that wanted to stop him, Danzo walked step by step to Naruto, looking at the son of a hero who suffered because of the Pot King. Naruto was obviously a little nervous about Danzo's gaze and approach, and waved his hand. Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to look at you. Naruto's nervous and timid performance obviously made Danzo frown, stretched out his hand to touch his golden hair, and said gently, Don't be nervous. Your name is Uzumaki Naruto, right? And Naruto's body, which was originally a little scared, suddenly froze, and he looked at Danzo in a daze. The temperature from the hair and the smile on the face of the man in front of him made him feel an inexplicable warmth, which made him want to get closer to Danzo. Yes, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. Chapter 011. It was the first time someone took the initiative to talk to him. Naruto answered very carefully, not daring to speak too loudly or too softly. Danzo took his hand off Naruto's head, sat down beside him, and continued to ask, I've heard of you, the monster in the village. No one wants to play with you? It was just a casual remark, but it hurt Naruto deeply. Danzo. Hand beat a low roar. Perhaps because he felt that Danzo's attitude towards him was different from that of others, his words were unpleasant to hear, and the harm he brought to Naruto was far greater than that of others. Resisting the pain in his heart, Naruto pulled the corner of his mouth and said with an ugly face, They are all talking nonsense. I am not a monster. He wanted to restore the impression of the uncle in front of him. Another one. Just one. Another person who can treat him well like Uncle Handbeat and Sister Ayam would be great. Naruto had some extravagant hopes in his heart. The voice was very small and low, but it was clearly transmitted to Danzo's ears. His character is quite strong, but he is a little unconfident. But it is true that if his character is not strong, he would have turned evil long ago to survive in such an environment. Danzo seemed not to feel Naruto's emotions and continued. If you are not a monster, why don't others like you, and you look guilty? Are you a monster or not? His face was calm, but his words were a little aggressive. Naruto looked at Danzo, who was sitting next to him and staring at him, and felt inexplicably sad. Even this good-looking uncle was prejudiced against him. At the same time, Naruto was a little puzzled. Why did he suffer all this injustice? How do I know if I am a monster? What's the difference between me and others? After enduring for a long time, the painful, angry, and puzzled emotions finally burst out uncontrollably. Tears dripped, and Naruto couldn't control the volume and yelled, Why? Why does everyone hate me? I didn't do anything. His cheeks flushed red, and he questioned Danzo. An inexplicable malice emerged in his body, making him speculate about Danzo with malice. The beard on his face that grew because of 9 tails became more and more obvious, and his azure pupils were slightly flushed, and an ominous aura emanated from him. Naruto. Ayam was not afraid of Naruto's aura at all. She reached out and held Naruto's hand distressedly, glared at Danzo and said, Sir, although you are a guest, we don't welcome you here now. Han did not speak, stood awkwardly behind Ayam, clasped his hands together and prayed for Danzo to leave first. Naruto, whose hand was held by Ayam, was startled suddenly. The evil aura quickly shrank, the scarlet in his eyes slowly retreated, and returned to the pure azure blue. Ignoring the two, Danzo looked at Naruto and asked, Naruto, do you think you are a monster? No. Naruto Kaido. Even if others have always said that he is a monster, stay away from him, or even hate him. But he knew very well that he was definitely not a monster. He was just an ordinary child. Speak louder. Danzo stared at him and said seriously, Since you think you are not a monster, then be open and speak to me with your chest held high. Are you a monster or not? No. Naruto's eyes became firm. He was not a monster. Absolutely not. Very good. Seeing Naruto's firm look, Danzo finally nodded with satisfaction and stretched out his hand to brush his golden hair. An inexplicable force was transmitted from Danzo's hand to his mind. The originally bright surroundings suddenly darkened. Under the guidance of Danzo Chakra, Naruto's pupils gradually lost consciousness. Where is this? Damp and dim. When Naruto came to his senses, he was no longer in Ichiraka Ramen. Naruto was not panicked. When he came to this place, he had an inexplicable sense of familiarity. It was as if he had been here before. The sound of water flow rang in his ears, just like in the dim space of the sewer. There was a voice in Naruto's mind intermittently, pulling him forward. Confused in his heart, Naruto followed the sound in a trance, followed the water flow, and walked deeper into the sewer. Wake up! Danzo slapped Naruto's shoulder and woke him up from his trance. Naruto woke up from his trance, staring at the unfamiliar environment in front of him with wide eyes, then looked at Danzo next to him and asked, "Uncle, where is this place?" As he spoke, he unconsciously moved closer to Danzo. He was a little scared. "This is in your inner world, or in your body," Danzo replied. "Body?" Naruto's eyes widened and he touched his body. "Isn't my body still here?" He hasn't been to Jonin school yet, and Danzo doesn't want to explain too much about chakra to him. He picked him up from the water with an expressionless face and walked deeper into the sewer. Being held in his hand, Naruto did not struggle and asked, "Uncle, where are we going?" Danzo calmly said, "To meet the monster in your body." The words were like a bolt from the blue, causing Naruto's body to tremble. He was stunned for a long time before stammering, "Uncle, am I really a monster?" He began to doubt his existence. This was in his body, but he had no idea that there was such a place in his body. "Am I really a monster? Didn't you just swear that you are not a monster? Since you have determined that you are not a monster, you must stick to your own ideas unswervingly, and don't change because of one or two words from others." Noticing Naruto's low mood, Danzo began to scold. But Naruto wanted to say something, but was startled by the scene in front of him. At the end of the sewer, a huge cage appeared in front of him. There was an incomprehensible piece of paper on the cage, and it was pitch black inside. Naruto couldn't see what was inside. Naruto asked carefully, "Uncle, what's in here?" Danzo had put Naruto down, but the unfamiliar environment made Naruto hide behind Danzo in fear. Chapter 012. There is a tailed beast locked inside, Danzo explained, releasing his chakra and heading into the cage. "Get out!" A roar sounded, accompanied by light red chakra constantly pouring out of the cage. These tailed beast chakras were mixed with strong negative emotions, which made Danzo instinctively feel unhappy. In Naruto's horrified eyes, a pair of scarlet beast eyes filled with violence and ferocity appeared in the dark of the cage. The huge body covered with red hair slowly emerged from the shadows. Just standing in front of this giant beast, Naruto could feel an evil and oppressive breath. Holding Danzo's arm tightly, Naruto's small body kept shrinking back. His eyes were full of fear and terror, and he murmured, "Monster! There is really a monster in my body." The outside world. As soon as Danzo's hand touched Naruto, the two stopped moving instantly. In the confused eyes of Tada and Ayam, a strong and evil aura gushed out from Naruto, enveloping him. Rich and ominous chakra filled the air. Because of Danzo, the Umbu ninja who had been far away changed his face. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sound of breaking through the air sounded. "Mr. Tada, please go out of the noodle shop with Ms. Ayam first." An Umbu ninja suddenly appeared in the noodle shop and signaled Tada to leave in a cold tone. Outside the noodle shop, all passers-by have been completely isolated from this area. Umbu wearing white vests and animal masks have surrounded this area. In the Hokage building, Sarutobi, who was still discussing the war, stood up suddenly and looked at the location of Ichiraka noodle shop with a horrified face. "The aura of Nine Tails?" Udatane Kohark asked uncertainly. "That's right." Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded, his face full of coldness. Danzo-sama met Nine Tails Jinchuriki at Ichiraka Noodle House. After the two came into contact, the seal of Nine Tails Jinchuriki loosened. An Umbu ninja quickly appeared in the house and reported, "It's that old guy Danzo again." Sarutobi Hiruzen was so angry that he was getting more and more presumptuous recently. In the past, he would only do things for him in secret, but now things have been brought to the surface. First, send people to evacuate the surrounding people and surround Ichiraka Noodle House. Don't let anyone know what happened inside. Sarutobi Hiruzen gave the order calmly. Yes. The Umbu ninja quickly turned into a black shadow and disappeared after answering. In the dark sewer, the huge Nine Tails looked directly at the two people below who were like ants. The rich tailed beast chakra escaped from the cage to the outside. "Did you see it?" Danzo asked. "Uncle, is this why people call me a monster?" Naruto stared blankly at Nine Tails in the cage and asked with some fear after a long time. "We call this guy Nine Tails, and his real name is Kurama." Danzo nodded and briefly introduced the origin of the big fox in front of Naruto. "So I'm really not a monster?" Naruto asked blankly after listening to Danzo's explanation. "No." Danzo shook his head. "Then why seal this monster into my body? Do you know how I've been living these past few years? Do you know?" Naruto became obviously agitated and questioned. Kid, be careful with your words. Ninetales was obviously unhappy to be called a monster. His scarlet eyes stared at Naruto, and Naruto seemed to be affected by his emotional fluctuations. The red-tailed beast chakra kept flowing into him. Calm down, Danzo said calmly to Naruto, and looked at Ninetales, who was still grinning at him with some disdain. Naruto is your container. You are so arrogant. As soon as the voice fell, Danzo used the sealing technique in his memory in a strange way, and directly pressed his palm on the seal on Naruto's belly. The huge cage was separated by a wall that suddenly rose. Ninetales' chakra that permeated Naruto's body quickly retracted into the cage, and Ninetales' vision was also blocked. Feeling his emotions calm down, Naruto looked at his body in shock. His emotions just now were inexplicably out of control. Hatred and anger were intertwined and surged up. Looking at the shocked Naruto, Danzo reached out his hand to touch his hair, but was slapped away by Naruto. Uncle, why did you lock this monster in my body? I have been bullied and rejected by the villagers in the past few years, all because of this monster in my body. Why do you want me to become this person? Naruto was obviously still holding a grudge against this question. Facing Naruto's questioning, Danzo's mood was also a bit complicated. Although he was originally a Jinchuriki, because of his identity as a hero's son, he could more or less enjoy a life that other Jinchuriki could not enjoy. But because of the Konoha high-level officials, Naruto's identity was concealed, and he was also shaped into a demon fox image under operation. But he definitely won't take the blame. Although it was the crime committed by the King of Pots, Danzo definitely won't admit it. With a move in his heart, Danzo's face has already changed significantly. With a complex look and sorrow on his face, looking at Naruto's angry eyes, Danzo explained with great sorrow, Naruto, in fact, all this is to protect you. Looking at his puzzled eyes, Danzo continued to explain. In fact, your identity is not simple. Whether it is your father or your mother, they are actually very great ninjas. The couple has contributed too much to this Konoha. Father? Mother? Naruto widened his eyes. In his childhood, the word parents often appeared, but never appeared. Why? He was even more puzzled. Since his parents have made so many contributions to the village, why did he have to become the container of this monster? Danzo explained with a complicated expression. Your parents are both great ninjas in Konoha, but at the same time, they are thorns in the eyes of other ninja villages. But they have passed away because of protecting Konoha. In order to protect you, we can only conceal your identity. All this is to protect you. His mind was working frantically at this time. While combining the identity of the fourth generation, he corrected Danzo's previous actions. He corrected his selfish idea of wanting to train Naruto into a war machine to everything for the purpose of protecting Naruto. Chapter 013. Naruto seemed to understand, but because he knew about his parents, he had already put this matter first in his heart and asked, "Who are my parents? What does all this have to do with this monster?" Danzo had already noticed the situation outside. It seemed that because of the Ninetales chakra explosion, the movement here had attracted the attention of Sarutobi Hiruzen. I had originally planned to tell Naruto in detail how he and his parents had worked hard to protect him, but now I can only make it short. Who are your parents? I can't tell you this. Why? Naruto was puzzled. I won't tell you your parents' names until you have the ability to protect yourself and the strength to gain a foothold in this ninja world. Danzo replied. All this is exchange for your parents' lives. You have to cherish it and can't expose your existence. At least you can't disclose your identity now. If the spies of the enemy village know your identity, you will only be greeted by endless assassinations. Naruto nodded, unexpectedly calm. Danzo was a little surprised by his reaction. Naruto didn't have a Jonin school yet, but his state and thinking were much better than what he saw in the anime. Compared with other children in the village, his emotions and state were amazing enough. Could it be that he was called the last one in the ninja school, and he became less and less confident, so he became stupider and stupider? Come to think of it, as the son of the fourth generation, Naruto's mastery of some ninjutsu was unexpectedly fast, and the talent he showed was far from being a last one. Thinking in his heart, Danzo explained. As for what you see, this monster in your body is actually one of the legacies left to you by your parents. I have explained the existence of the tailed beasts before. With the tailed beasts, you will be countless times stronger than ordinary people in terms of chakra and the self-recovery ability of your body. And if you can fully master the power brought to you by Nine Tails, you will have the strength to gain a foothold in the ninja world. Is this monster the legacies left to me by my parents? Naruto looked at the cage separated by the wall, his expression a little dazed. Mastering the power of this monster, I can know the names of my father and mother. Power. I want to have powerful power. He only has this thought in his mind now. Wake up. Danzo suddenly stretched out his hand and slapped him on the head, and the remaining trace of the tailed beast chakra left on his body dissipated. Naruto, who was in a trance, woke up from the state of pursuing power and looked at Danzo in confusion. What did I just do? Although it is not a bad thing to desire power, Naruto, power that cannot be mastered is not yours after all. Only power that can be used freely belongs to you. Danzo kindly warned Naruto not to trust Ninetales too much and to be vigilant against Ninetales. When Naruto came out of his consciousness space, the entire Ichiraku noodle shop was surrounded by Umbu ninjas. Sarutobi Hiruzen and the other two stared at Danzo with ugly faces. Handing the unconscious Naruto to an Umbu ninja, Danzo yawned. Danzo, what did you do to Naruto? Looking at the unconscious Naruto, Sarutobi Hiruzen was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. This old guy is getting more and more presumptuous now. Danzo grinned and said, as the descendant of that guy, Naruto's treatment is a bit shabby. He is a Jinchuriki, and I am just motivating him. You also know that Naruto's identity is too sensitive. Didn't we agree that I would take care of everything about Naruto? You shouldn't contact him. Sarutobi was really angry this time, looking at Danzo with cold eyes. Danzo was silent. Of course, he knew that this was already agreed upon, but if he could bring Naruto, who was a nuclear weapon in the early Hokage period, to the battlefield, it would definitely be a big trump card, so he could only try to contact Naruto. You guy. Seeing that Danzo was not going to explain, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly dodged. Before Danzo saw him make a seal, he had come to his side and punched him in the face. Naruto was the son of the fourth generation. The fourth generation entrusted Naruto to him before they died, but he did not give Naruto a good childhood. He was already very sorry for Minato, and he must not let this old guy cause trouble to Naruto's life again. Snap. Danzo was panicking inside, but still calm on the surface. He stretched out his arm and opened his palm, firmly grasping Sarutobi's fist. With a serious face, Danzo looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen in front of him vigilantly, paying attention to the movements around him. Body flicker technique. This speed is almost impossible to catch with the naked eye, but fortunately he blocked it. But as a Hokage, his attack strategy should not be so monotonous. Maybe the one in front of him is a clone? No, they are old friends, and now they are in Konoha Village. Sarutobi Hiruzen will not really be cruel to him. His mind turned quickly, and Danzo thought about the sudden attack in front of him. He really didn't expect Sarutobi Hiruzen to attack directly without mercy. It seems that Naruto really occupies a large part of his heart, perhaps because of guilt? If his physical fitness had not inherited the original owner in all aspects, Danzo would have almost not reacted to this punch just now. He only inherited the memory of the Pot King, but not the combat experience. It's like watching a movie. You only saw a man beat 10 people in the movie, but if you really want to fight yourself, it's hard to do the same as him, even if your body muscles have memorized all the movements. Sarutobi retracted his fist and looked at Danzo with some doubt. He actually held back just now. With his speed, the punch just now almost hit Danzo's face. If he hadn't held back and slowed down, this guy would have been knocked out. Danzo's heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect that the old guy still saw through it. As expected, he is worthy of being a Hokage. His combat experience and observation skills are so subtle. Although his heart fluctuated a lot, his face was unusually calm. Sighing and looking at Sarutobi, Danzo said helplessly, "Let's talk about it when we get back. I'll wait for your explanation." Sarutobi looked at him deeply, replied calmly, and didn't stay any longer. He walked out of the noodle shop and walked towards the Hokage building. Udatane Koharu and Mitokado Hamura beside him were a little confused about what happened, but since Sarutobi Hiruzen did not pursue the matter, they did not stay and followed him out. Watching the backs of the people leaving, Danzo closed his eyes and thought about how to explain his strength. Chapter 014. In the Hokage's office, Danzo and Sarutobi sat face to face. There were only two people in the office. Udatane Koharu and Mitokado Hamura were not there. Although the four had been fighting partners since they were young, Danzo and Sarutobi had a closer relationship, while the other two were relatively distant. Sarutobi stared at Danzo and said, "Explain your strength." "This is the price of becoming young again," Danzo said helplessly. "My youth is not like Tsunade, where only the appearance is restored. My body functions are all restored to the time when I was young. You. Sarutobi's pupils contracted. Restoring youth is a temptation that is fatal to every elderly person. His heart was burning at this moment. If he could return to youth, Sarutobi Hiruzen could clearly feel the decline of his physical functions since the Third War, which is why he abdicated and gave way to Namikaze Minato. Now, after a few years, Sarutobi's strength has declined by 40%. Seeing Sarutobi's appearance, Danzo could guess what he was thinking and couldn't help but say with a smile, "There is a price. Or rather, this is also an accident, but after returning to youth, I thought my strength could be restored to its peak or even stronger, but I didn't expect that my memory or my combat experience and instincts were not compatible with this young body. This also caused my consciousness to react, but my body couldn't keep up." His words stopped Sarutobi's intention to try. Frowning, Sarutobi Hiruzen asked seriously, "Is there a solution?" "I don't know, but I only know that my current strength is not even 1/10 of what it used to be." Danzo silently made a seal in front of him. The turtle-like hand speed made Sarutobi stunned again. So serious? With such a severe decline in strength, he no longer had the idea of trying to return to youth like Danzo. Sarutobi's eyes were a little complicated, sympathetic, but also a little confused. "Then you still plan to lead the team to kill the enemy?" Danzo stood up from his seat suddenly, looking at Sarutobi with sharp eyes. "Even if I don't have the strength, so what? My original intention remains unchanged. My original intention remains unchanged. Even if I don't have the strength, even if I die, I will not let Konoha succumb to other villages. The teacher taught me a lot of principles, but what he said the most is to be ruthless to others and to yourself, and never be cowardly." Sarutobi felt a little ashamed and a little admired. Danzo, who has never changed, is the same as before. "Have Kirigakure and Orochimaru replied?" Danzo asked, and beside him, a root ninja suddenly appeared. This person is Aburame Ryoma, who sent a letter back from the Fire Country daimyo. "Kirigakure's senior management has agreed to your proposal, and Orochimaru has not replied for the time being," Aburame Ryoma said respectfully to Kaido. Nodding, Danzo did not continue to ask questions. Looking at the people coming and going on the street, this battle must not be fought. His decision this time was just to show his face in front of the masses, gain the impression points, and improve his strength to be able to protect himself as soon as possible. If Konoha Village really had to suffer a lot to start a war, he knew that the gains would outweigh the losses. Gather the people of the route to conduct drills. The letter from the daimyo should be on the way. "We must be prepared for the war," Danzo said calmly.
Yes.
Aburame Ryoma nodded and disappeared in front of Danzo. This speed. Sighing in his heart, Danzo felt a little disappointed. If he inherited all the strength of the Pot King with this young body now, he would not have to be so timid now. Perhaps because of the difference in thinking as an alien. Although Danzo can use ninjutsu, it is difficult to perform it smoothly in battle. The speed of seal formation is one thing, and the fighting instinct is another. The most basic point for Genin to become Chunin is the transformation of fighting instinct. Many ninjutsu, taijutsu, and even illusions are used subconsciously during the battle. But Danzo really can't learn this kind of ninja instinct. Just like an ordinary person traveling to the world of immortal cultivation, it is difficult for you to expect the kind of enlightenment to happen. In the era of big data in the previous life, all the great principles have been analyzed into various levels of thinking. Everyone understands the principles, but whether they can do it is another matter. Danzo is in such a state now, but his strength is not as useless as he said when he was narrating to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Although his instinct as a ninja disappeared, Danzo's physical fitness is stronger. He believes that as long as he relies on constantly adding points to improve various attributes and slowly cultivates the fighting instinct of a ninja, he can also gain a foothold in this world and even step onto the peak. "Uncle!" A slightly excited shout caught Danzo's attention. In the disgusted eyes of others on the street, Naruto ran towards Danzo. The Umbu ninja who was protecting and monitoring Naruto in the dark looked a little ugly. "Uncle, why did you disappear after I woke up?" Naruto came to Danzo and asked happily. For this uncle who told him the truth and was also a friend of his parents, Naruto had an inexplicable liking for him. This kid brought this upon himself. Sarutobi Hiruzen. "Don't blame me." Danzo smiled secretly in his heart and explained to Naruto without any expression on his face. "Originally, I had to wait until you grew up to tell you these things, but I told you on my own initiative. I have to explain this situation to the third generation." In one sentence, He directly put the matter of concealing Naruto's identity on Sarutobi Hiruzen. Danzo's operation was smooth and flowing. After coming to this world, his ability to talk and pass the buck gradually improved. Third-generation grandpa? Sure enough, Naruto pouted and remembered this. Naruto seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Uncle, I don't know your name yet." "Danzo, just call me Uncle Danzo." Danzo thought for a while and said, although the generations were a bit confusing, but in terms of age, it was not wrong for him to be his uncle. "Uncle Danzo," Naruto shouted excitedly. "You probably didn't have breakfast, boss. Give me another bowl of noodles." Looking at Naruto's malnourished face, Danzo shouted to the noodle shop owner. "Ichiraka Ramen, which is handmade, doesn't sell breakfast." Danzo just picked a noodle shop at random. Chapter 015. Facing Danzo's order, the noodle shop owner did not show his simple and honest attitude just now. Instead, he looked at Naruto with disgust and said indifferently, "Dear guest, we don't serve monsters here. If you want to eat with this monster, please forgive me for not serving you." Danzo is a ninja with a forehead protector. Although the boss didn't give him a good look, his words were still polite. Frowning, Danzo stood up and wanted to scold the boss, but was stopped by Naruto. "Uncle Danzo, forget it." Facing this man's attitude, Naruto was very calm. Glancing at Naruto, Danzo stopped talking at his lips. This kid's mind is really mature. I don't know how he was fooled by Sarutobi Hiruzen in the original book. The original Naruto gave the audience a feeling that he was more like his mother Kushina. The Naruto that Danzo came into contact with was not carefree and aimed at Hokage. He was calm and precocious, more like the Minato in his memory. Namake's Minato, a commoner, relied on his talent and wisdom to gradually squeeze into the Hokage faction and make a name for himself. He eventually became famous and was extremely popular in Konoha village, where most people were commoners. Alas, you have suffered. Since Naruto was so sensible, Danzo followed his wishes. Just get used to it. One day, I will be recognized by everyone with my own efforts, not because of my parents. Naruto smiled at Danzo, and the warmth was like a little sun. After knowing the truth, Naruto grew up overnight and had his own ideas. This little guy is really like his father. Danzo led Naruto out of the noodle shop, looking at the disgusted and indifferent eyes on the street and said, "To get everyone's recognition, it's not just about talking. Whether it's strength or other abilities, it's indispensable. The path you decided is more difficult than you think. Are you ready?" Of course. Naruto's tone was firm, without the confusion when he met Ichiraku. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was far away in the Hokage building, looked at Naruto's face in the crystal ball, and looked at Danzo next to Naruto in a trance. "You really changed." At the moment when Naruto took the initiative to contact Danzo, Umbu had informed Sarutobi Hiruzen, so he used the telescope technique to observe the two. The telescope technique can only peek at the picture, but there is no sound. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen has more or less understood the situation through Umbu, who followed secretly. I didn't expect that Danzo, who wanted to train Naruto into a fighting machine, would now patiently teach him about recognition and trust. This is a good thing. So Sarutobi Hiruzen just sent an additional team of Umbu to follow and ignored the two. Once Danzo planned to teach Naruto some radical ideas, these Umbu would naturally stop him. Danzo's strength is not as good as before, and these Umbu can also monitor Danzo well. At this time, the ninjas of the route have reported to Danzo about the increase in the surrounding Umbu. Noticing that the sense of peeping disappeared, Danzo could more or less guess that it was Sarutobi Hiruzen who was secretly spying on him again. "Uncle Danzo, I still can't control the chakra in my body." Naruto stood in front of Danzo and said a little frustrated, "Every time I mobilize chakra, I have to spend a lot of effort. Am I stupid?" After learning how to refine chakra, it was difficult for him to mobilize the chakra in his body. Hearing this, not only Danzo rolled his eyes, but even the Umbu ninja hiding in the dark could not help rolling his eyes. After a brief exchange of ideas, after confirming that Naruto's three views were indeed very positive, Danzo began to plan to teach Naruto to become a ninja. Even if he could not bring Naruto to the battlefield, it was very important to keep the child of destiny firmly in his hands. And to become a ninja, the most basic thing is to have chakra. After teaching Naruto how to refine chakra, Danzo was dumbfounded, and the Umbu ninja hiding in the dark was also dumbfounded. Naruto successfully refined a large amount of chakra in just the first attempt to refine. The amount of chakra can be explained by the blood of the Uzumaki clan and the identity of Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. But Naruto successfully refined chakra in just the first attempt. If it wasn't because of Danzo's teaching ability acts, then it was definitely because of Naruto's talent. Danzo coughed and said calmly, "This is just the first day. Everything should be done step by step. Your talent is good, but it's still a little bit worse than your father and Uncle Danzo. Because of the 9 tails in your body, your chakra volume will be larger than that of ordinary people, but it will also be more difficult to control." Naruto asked in confusion. If it is difficult to control, what will happen? Every bit of chakra is extremely precious, especially in battle. Better control of your chakra can save chakra when performing ninjutsu. At the same time, chakra control and mastery of ninjutsu can also determine the power of your ninjutsu. Danzo explained while slowly making hand seals. This is a wind-stylic level ninjutsu, wind-style vacuum sphere. Remember my hand seal method and sequence. In order to cover up his hand speed, Danzo deliberately slowed down the speed and said to Naruto. Chakra condensed in the body, and invisible air waves came out of Danzo's mouth, hitting a big tree next to him. Bang! It was just a sea-level ninjutsu, and with Danzo controlling the amount of chakra, it only made the tree shake. Just now I controlled the amount of chakra, so the power was weakened. Danzo looked at Naruto's puzzled eyes and explained. Next I will release chakra and use the same hand seal to increase the power of this ninjutsu. He covered it up again in the same way. But as Danzo's chakra was fully released, a huge wind ball visible to the naked eye came out of his mouth and rushed towards the big tree with a swift and fierce momentum. After a short collision and roar, Naruto stared at the tree trunk that had been broken into several pieces in front of him. Under my control, the sea-level ninjutsu vacuum sphere, which was performed in the same way, has a B-level or even A-level level, Danzo said proudly. Although the Pot King has 5 chakra properties, he has studied the wind property in depth. Chapter 016. If Sarutobi Hiruzen is a ninjutsu master who is a grandmaster of all 5 elements, then Danzo is a master of wind style who has learned from the 2nd generation and has only mastered one. Because he inherited Danzo's memory, he is very skilled in controlling the flow of chakra. As expected of Lord Danzo, who is praised by his father, the Umbu ninja who was secretly observing thought to himself. Even if he has awakened the copying ability of Sharingan, without absolute research on the wind attribute, even if he can copy Danzo's ninjutsu, he cannot exert the same power as him. Naruto's eyes glowed, and he pulled Danzo's clothes and shouted, "Uncle Danzo, teach me this. Wait until you can flexibly control the chakra in your body." Danzo pulled the corner of his mouth. With the interference of 9 tails, it is not easy for Naruto to flexibly control chakra. This is also the reason why Naruto did not completely master the most basic 3-body technique until he graduated from the ninja school. "Let's go and eat ramen." Tugging Naruto, Danzo stopped his eagerness to continue climbing the tree. "I forgot to pay for the ramen yesterday, so I have to eat a few more bowls today to apologize to him." "Hey!" Naruto widened his eyes and suppressed the idea of continuing to practice. He has such a good Uncle Danzo, and he has to introduce him to Uncle Ichiraku and Sister Ayame. Shikamaru. It's so boring. Think of some interesting games to play. At this time, a naughty and childish voice sounded. The familiar name made Danzo look back, and a group of 3 people, one fat, one thin, and a girl, were walking towards this side. The little fat boy held snacks in his hand and kept stuffing them into his mouth. The girl with a single blonde ponytail pulled the skinny boy's arm and said, "It's so boring." "No, it's too troublesome." The skinny boy looked helpless. Lazy Kaido. Next generation Ino Shikacho. Danzo recognized the identities of the 3 people at the first time. The 3 little brats who were walking towards this side also saw Naruto and Danzo. The 3 little brats stopped and looked at Naruto and Danzo from a distance, with a strange look in their eyes. Most of the children in the village have been repeatedly told by adults not to play with this yellow-haired child because he is a monster. "Uncle Danzo, let's go." Naruto pulled Danzo's clothes and whispered, but his tone was obviously a little disappointed. Danzo didn't say anything and took Naruto away silently. On the way to Ichiraku Ramen, Naruto kept his head down. Although he said something slightly mature about getting recognition from others, he still longed for someone to contact and accompany him in his heart. "Go back." Danzo, who was walking silently, suddenly stopped and blocked in front of Naruto. And Naruto, who had been keeping his head down, accidentally bumped into his thigh. "What?" Naruto looked up at Danzo in confusion. He didn't hear clearly just now. Danzo looked at him seriously and repeated, "Go back. You really want to get in touch with them, right?" Naruto was stunned. His face Jonin couldn't help but smile, but it was full of bitterness. It's better not to bother them. They won't want to play with me. It's not that he hasn't tried to get in touch with others, but no matter whether it's an adult or a child, every time it ends in a bad mood because of him. Now that he knows his identity, has responsibilities and goals, Naruto doesn't want to bother others anymore. It's different. Danzo shook his head and said, most of the people you came into contact with before were civilians, or people who didn't know the truth. The big guys just follow the crowd, so they don't want to contact you. Looking at Naruto's obviously hopeful eyes, Danzo explained, your father and mother are not ordinary. Although your identity was concealed to protect you, since I know your identity, there will certainly be people who know your identity like me. Behind those 3 children just now are the Yamanaka clan, the Akamichi clan, and the Nara clan. They all have a good relationship with your father. Although their elders didn't tell them your identity in order to conceal your identity, they wouldn't stop them from contacting you. Danzo was right. According to the time, Naruto would come into contact with the children of these big families after entering the ninja school, and finally have his own friends. He is just helping Naruto to contact them in advance. Naruto thought for a long time before whispering, so, they are actually willing to play with me? Danzo shook his head. These family members generally don't care about your identity, but if you want to play with them, it depends on your own ability. Skill? Naruto was a little confused. The ability to make others willing to approach you and be friends with you. Danzo didn't expect that one day he would come to teach others how to make friends. Actually, I was a kindergarten teacher. It seems that I was a male kindergarten teacher. Danzo began to doubt his profession in his previous life. Danzo sighed and asked, did you hear what the little girl said just now? Naruto nodded. She said, they are bored? Yes, they're bored now. In this situation where everyone is unfamiliar with each other, you can cater to their interests. You can tell them an interesting game and play it together. As you play, you will become familiar with each other. Danzo thought about Kaido. Friendship between children should be that simple, right? Danzo himself was a little uncertain. Naruto lowered his head and frowned for a long time, then looked at Danzo and asked, since they are all children of big families, they should have mastered the extraction of chakra, right? Danzo nodded. There are traces of chakra flowing in the bodies of the 3 little guys just now. Let's go back. After getting the answer, Naruto looked at Danzo and said he had a hunch that today he would meet the first, or even the second or third friend of the same age in his life. Ino sat on the stone man in the park and shook her short legs. Shikamaru, it's really boring. Let's find something fun. Because of the preparations for the war, the flower shop was temporarily closed, and she really couldn't think of anything to do. Isn't it nice to lie down and sleep? It's rare that Dad is not at home. Why should I go out with you to wander around? Shikamaru said a little dissatisfied while lying on the stone bench. Crack, crack. Choji sat next to Shikamaru without interrupting, constantly stuffing potato chips into his mouth. Huh. Ino uttered a sigh and looked outside the park and said, the yellow-haired boy is back. Shikamaru opened half of his eyes and looked at the entrance of the park. The yellow-haired boy who was rejected by the villagers walked towards this side nervously. And next to him, that uncle looks familiar. Shikamaru thought to himself. He just felt that the uncle standing next to the yellow-haired boy looked familiar. After thinking for a while, Shikamaru said to Ino on the stone man, Ino, go ask about the situation. At a very young age, Ino, who was loved by 3 families, looked like a tomboy. With a shake, he jumped off the stone man and walked towards Naruto. Hey boy, is there anything wrong? Shikamaru also sat up from lying flat and looked at Naruto, who was a little nervous quietly. Can I play with you? After hesitating for a while, Naruto finally spoke. No. Ino refused outright. Naruto, who had hoped for something, looked a little dim, but still forced a smile and planned to leave. But if you can think of something interesting, I can consider it. Looking at Naruto's appearance, Ino said mischievously as if she had succeeded. She was just bored, so she wouldn't care if there was one more or one less person. How about Shikamaru? Choji? Ino looked back at Shikamaru and Choji behind her and asked, I have no objection. Shikamaru glanced at Danzo behind Naruto and lay down on the stone bench again. He mainly paid attention to Danzo behind Naruto, and Naruto was just a relatively pitiful yellow-haired boy to him, so he didn't care. I have no objection either. Seeing that Shikamaru had no objection, Choji had no objection either. Naruto's smile became a little brighter, which made Ino stunned. Naruto's smile actually gave her a warm, very warm feeling. Let's climb a tree. Read books every day during the National Day holiday. Chapter 17. Danzo-sama, Hokage-sama invites you. A familiar, emotionless voice sounded again. An Umbu ninja stood next to Danzo very abruptly, looking at Naruto, who was covered in dust but still smiling, and the little Ino Shikacho who were also trying to climb the tree next to him. Danzo smiled with relief. But then he was stunned. What was this sense of déjà vu of the old father? Go to the Hokage building. Danzo ordered the root ninja in the dark. When Danzo left, no one except Shikamaru noticed, including Naruto. And the doubt on Shikamaru's face disappeared at this time. It turned out that he hurriedly came to the Hokage building. Danzo did not knock on the door this time, and pushed it open with a bang. The representatives of various clans and Konoha's high-level officials who should have attended the last meeting were already there. Did the daimyo send a letter? Danzo looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen's inquiring eyes and asked with a clear mind. How did you get the daimyo to agree to send troops? The third generation didn't answer, but their attitude was obvious. The daimyo of the Land of Fire is different from these ninjas. He is a pure politician. He will never allow troops to be mobilized without benefits. He agreed to participate in the war several times before because he was forced to do so. The representatives of other tribes also looked at Danzo curiously. They had noticed that Danzo's actions in the past few days were not concealed. This kind of mobilization before the battle, Danzo seemed to have expected that the daimyo would agree to send troops. How did he do it? Danzo didn't hide it from them. Kaido, benefits and face. As a politician, the daimyo doesn't care about many things. You can get his consent by catering to his preferences. This kind of thing is simple for him who has experienced 2 lives and has been influenced by various cultures, but it is a bit difficult for these ninjas who pay more attention to military power. In the entire ninja world, perhaps the only one who can compare with him in terms of conspiracy and intrigue is the Black Zetsu, who has been hiding very deeply and has been planning for 1,000 years. The third generation and the others frowned. Danzo's answer obviously did not satisfy them. It was as if he had said nothing. Since the daimyo has agreed to send troops, should we discuss strategic matters next? Danzo did not give them a chance to continue to entangle, and sat down at his seat and said, "You are quite impatient," the third generation said, but did not stop him. "You are the commander-in-chief this time. You make the arrangements." Udatain Koharu changed his previous attitude of refuting Danzo, and this time he actually spoke up to stand on Danzo's side. Danzo was not polite. He stood up from his seat, glanced at everyone, and said slowly, "Although Cloud Shinobi Village provoked this incident, I'm also very clear about the current situation in the village. We are not allowed to expand the war. The third war has not been long, except for Tsunade, which was defeated and withdrew from the war at the beginning of the third war. The situation of other villages is actually similar to ours. Cloud Shinobi Village faced the siege of both US and Iwagakure at the same time in the late stage of the third war, and their losses were also not small. Although Cloud Shinobi Village has taken the initiative to provoke us, their attitude is actually ambiguous. There is a high probability that it is war blackmail in order to seize the eyes of the Hyuga clan. In other words, they may just scare us, and they have no intention or ability to start a war. Then what are you going to do? Third generation asked. Everyone present was not a fool and knew it very well, but they couldn't afford to gamble. I have only one plan, that is, to be fast and fierce enough, and to fight a blitzkrieg. What do you mean? Everyone in the conference room was confused and didn't quite understand what Danzo meant. Since the other party may be trying to scare us because we are weak now, then we should give them a heavy blow. As the saying goes, 1 punch is better than 100. Let them know that Konoha's people are not scared, Danzo said with a smile. Attack with lightning speed to suppress those people in Cloud Shinobi Village, so that other villages will be suspicious of Konoha's current strength. At the same time, we will end the fight with Cloud Shinobi Village as soon as possible and end the war before the war expands. The current situation must not be delayed. The longer it is delayed, the more difficult it is to guess the attitude of other ninja villages. We have to end the war before other ninja villages make up their minds to join the war. Are you sure? The third generation frowned and looked at Danzo. Sure enough, Danzo was not suitable for the position of Hokage. His ideas were still so radical and adventurous. Yes. Danzo glanced at him. I have already contacted Kirigakure. They will ally with us in this war and push their troops into the territory of the Land of Lightning, but they will not help us too much. They will only help us with deterrence, and will not send troops to participate in the war, Danzo explained. Kirigakure? Shikaka frowned and asked, how did Lord Danzo get in touch with the people of Kirigakure? Those lunatics are not easy to mess with. Yes, the fourth Mizukage is the Three Tails Jinchuriki. The people of Kirigakure dared to fight among themselves during the war. Those lunatics are not easy to mess with. Mitokado Hamura also added, Danzo, you have to think carefully if you want to cooperate with them. Mitokado Hamura is in charge of Konoha's diplomacy. The people on the Kirigakure side are completely crazy people when they come into contact with them. Their minds are erratic and unpredictable, and they change their faces like turning the pages of a book. There are no eternal enemies in this world. The land of water is not richer than our land of fire, especially in terms of supplies. The daimyo will help us coordinate the land of water's supplies, and we will get the help of Kirigakure. Danzo looked at the people present and explained. Compared to that old guy Anoki, although the fourth Mizukage has many capable people around him, his age and his status as Jinchuriki make him look awkward in front of Kirigakure. He has just taken office and needs political achievements to consolidate his position, and I just helped him with this. Everyone nodded. Although they didn't understand how Danzo did it, they felt more confident with the help of Kirigakure. This time I plan to focus most of my forces on the Land of Lightning. For the other 3 countries, we should be wary of Iwagakure. Tsunade has a truce agreement with us, Kirigakure has an alliance with us, and Iwagakure killed the Third Raikage during the Third War. Although we know that they are unlikely to join the Land of Lightning, and may even take advantage of the situation, but to be safe, we should allocate some forces to be wary of Iwagakure. The originally precarious situation turned out to be very good after Danzo's analysis. Everyone present, except Sarutobi Hiruzen, had an infinite desire to fight. This game looks like a sure win. How can we not fight? As soon as the meeting ended, everyone couldn't wait to go back and prepare for war. It has been a long time since the Land of Lightning's envoys were killed. Although Danzo's roots have been imitating the envoys to convey information to the Land of Lightning, the time cannot be delayed too long. We have to take the initiative before the Raikage guy reacts. Sarutobi, now is not the time for internal fighting. As soon as the others left, Danzo said to Sarutobi Hiruzen bluntly. Although many families supported his participation in the war, Sarutobi's attitude was always wavering. This also caused many people in the Hokage faction to hesitate. Now there are only 2 of them in the meeting room, and they are much more presumptuous when talking. There are only Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen in the quiet meeting room. Chapter 018. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Danzo and asked, Are you so anxious to go to the battlefield and die? I've said it before, although my strength is greatly reduced now, I will not die on the battlefield. Danzo was a little annoyed. This old guy cursed others to death as soon as he opened his mouth. He really couldn't talk. I will let Kakashi and other Jonin go to the battle with you, and your safety will be taken care of by Umbu. Taking a deep breath, Sarutobi Hiruzen finally made concessions. Now is not the time for internal fighting. Danzo frowned and refused. Impossible. My safety will be taken care of by the root. Although he got the answer he wanted, who knows if the Umbu sent by Sarutobi was to monitor and undermine him. Your safety needs to be guaranteed. As a commander, if you have an accident on the battlefield, it will have a great impact on morale. The 3rd generation stared at him and insisted on his request. I said I won't die. I am very confident in this war. Danzo said dissatisfiedly. Why does this old guy think he will die soon? It's settled. If you don't want Umbu's people to protect you, then change the commander-in-chief. The 3rd generation said, I will let Hamura take your place. Danzo glared at him, stood up, slammed the table and shouted, The daimyo agreed to go to war because I am the commander. And the families in the village also went out because they supported me. The 3rd generation also stood up and said, But I am the Hokage of Konoha. I can also write to the daimyo to take back your command. I have more decision-making power than you on various affairs in the village. For a moment, Danzo had the idea of taking the position of Hokage away from this old guy. Not for power, but just to let this guy see that the position he was proud of in his heart was easily obtained by others. But they can't interfere with my choice. Frowning, looking at Sarutobi Hiruzen's serious look, Danzo also knew that this matter could not be refused, and the other party meant to do good for him, so he could only helplessly kaido. The 3rd generation nodded with satisfaction and sat down again, saying, I will only protect your safety. The goal has been achieved, and Danzo did not stay to see the old man's stinky face. He said hello and left directly. When he looked back, the gloom on his face turned into a smile. The war has been decided. Although the process was a bit tortuous, Danzo was in a good mood. If the old man's Umbu dared to cause trouble for him on the battlefield, his roots would not be vegetarians. When I came out of the Hokage building, It was almost late at night. On the way back, I passed by the place where I met Naruto, but Naruto was gone. I went to the hand-beating place to eat a bowl of noodles and paid back the money I had paid before. Danzo was ready to go back to the roots to rest. Speaking of which, it seems that I have never returned to my home. Looking at the road leading to the Shimura family's residence, Danzo fell into deep thought. Although Danzo is a member of the Shimura clan and has his own house in the Shimura settlement, he has always lived in the roots and rarely returned to his home since the death of the second generation, except for going to the battlefield. Walking on this familiar yet unfamiliar path, looking at rows of familiar houses. The Shimura clan was once very glorious in Danzo's memory and was one of the founders of Konoha village. But after the Second and Third World Wars, the number of Shimura clan members plummeted, and the loss was even greater than that during the Sengoku period. Danzo? A slightly surprised voice sounded. Danzo looked back and saw a white-haired old man looking at him in disbelief. It's really you. The old man approached Danzo, his wrinkled face trembling a little. You? How come you have become younger? It turns out to be Xiaoyi. After staring at the white-haired old man for a long time, Danzo recognized that this person was the same clan brother of the Pot King when he was young, and said with a smile. Shimura panted. His face flushed. Xiaoyi. Shimura, he couldn't accept being called Xiaoyi by a young man who looked several decades younger than himself. But you've aged too fast. I can hardly recognize you. Danzo laughed. Hole. Shimura, he cursed dissatisfiedly. If it weren't for your plan, I wouldn't have been injured and left with a root of illness, and now I'm old so fast. It's a good thing to retire early and not have to fight and kill. It's not a good thing to take care of the younger generation in the village. Although he is the cousin of the Pot King, Danzo has no gaps in communication. The whole process is smooth, as if he is really Danzo. You. Shimura, he looked at his young face and smiled with some nostalgia. You have changed a lot. If I wasn't still this old bone, I would have thought I was back to my youth. You haven't smiled like this since the second generation died. Old. Danzo didn't explain much. Shimura-yi's wrinkled face wrinkled even more. This guy is still as annoying as before. Looking at the somewhat quiet station, Danzo asked absent-mindedly, what is the current situation of the clan? Shimura sighed and said, there are only a few cats. All of them are useless juniors. The Shimura clan has declined. If I were not still here, those juniors in the clan would have to go to the ninja school to be taught ninjutsu. Danzo did not speak. This guy must have exaggerated. After all, it is a big clan in the village, and the clan has a lot of ninjutsu scrolls. But if these juniors are unwilling to work hard, the situation should not be bad. Although the Pot King has a high seniority in the village, his focus has always been on the roots. Compared with the Shimura clan, the roots are the direct line created and cultivated by Danzo. He rarely cares about the affairs of the Shimura clan, let alone cultivating the children of the family. How many ninjas are available in the clan? Danzo thought for a long time before asking. There are quite a few genin, but there are only about 20 chunin. As for jonin, Shimura said, pointing at himself with an embarrassed look on his face. Only me. So few. Danzo frowned. In the original work, although the Shimura clan is a large clan, it seems that Danzo is the only character who appears. There are a lot of Shimuras in Gintama. Ninjas can't make it, so they become samurai. Danzo complained in his heart. Not a few. Didn't you see that there is only one Tsunade left in the Senju clan now? Among the several large clans in the past, only the Sarutobi clan and the Uchiha clan are still prosperous now, and the others are almost the same as us. You know, in the war, the people who rush to the front are all people from our large clans. Shimura explained. You should have heard more or less about what happened in the village recently? Danzo asked tentatively. Shimura heard this. His eyes widened and he roared, Impossible! The children of the tribe will never accompany you to the battlefield again. You are even more stubborn than Sarutobi Hiruzen. How can these little guys grow up without experiencing war? Danzo shook his head. Old stubborn, all rotten. Chapter 019. The next morning, Danzo came out of Shimura's camp cursing. He didn't get another team in the end, and just rested in the house of the Pot King for one night. Shimura, he protects these children like treasures. How can he be a ninja if he is spoiled like this? Danzo felt that he was a bit of a ninja, but now is not the time to waste time with him. When he woke up early in the morning, Danzo received news from the root. The people of each tribe have gathered and are ready to set off to the front line at any time. Ryoma, have you confirmed all aspects of the route? Danzo said to the empty air while walking, but he could confirm that Ryoma was hiding somewhere around him. Because he swallowed the soul of the Pot King, Danzo's spirit has been enhanced. Even if he doesn't rely on his eyes, Danzo can still vaguely perceive the movements around him. This is also the reason why he can perceive the Sarutobi telescope technique. Now, in terms of spirit, he is like a passive skill with the perception ninjutsu blessing. In a certain range, he can detect hostility in advance. I have arranged people to confirm the route, and a small team is stationed at a certain distance to ensure that the march will not be discovered. Ryoma showed up and said respectfully to Danzo. Danzo nodded. This is also a small strategy of his. Since we want to launch a surprise attack and end the war as soon as possible in the form of a blitzkrieg, we must start hiding from the gathering of troops to rush to the front line. When we arrived at the entrance of the village, a large group of people were ready to go. Because there were too many people, the Uchiha and Hyuga clans would go to the front line with him in advance, and other clans would also rush there in batches. This time, we will let those people in the land of thunder know that tigers but cannot be touched. At the swearing-in ceremony, the third generation stood on a temporary high platform and loudly encouraged morale. The faces of the large group of ninjas below were calm, but many civilians who came to watch were so excited that they wanted to throw their arms to the front line and die. Listening to the words of the third generation, Danzo couldn't help but laugh and muttered, "With this level, you can't even be a primary school principal in the past. Where the leaves are flying, the fire will continue to grow. The flames will continue to illuminate the village, and let the new leaves sprout." Sarutobi clenched his fists and looked at everyone below and said, "Everything you have paid is worth it. Everything is for the village." For Konoha, although this sentence has been said thousands of times, every time you hear it, as a member of Konoha village, you will feel a sense of honor. The ninjas below, who had originally had calm faces, seemed to be injected with chicken blood, and shouted with the third generation. For Konoha, this sentence was simplified by the third generation from the purpose and will of the second generation. Since he ascended to the position of Hokage, he has said it thousands of times, at least for Danzo. As for others, he didn't know. Danzo bit his lips hard and kept his face tight to prevent himself from laughing. At such a serious moment, he didn't know how many eyes were staring at him. If he laughed at this time, it would affect his reputation. This war is commanded by Hokage assisted by Shimura Danzō. After a lot of nagging, the third generation finally introduced Danzo. Danzo? Who is Danzo? Can you call Danzo-sama by his name? Danzo-sama is a classmate of Hokage-sama and had a brilliant record during World War II. I haven't heard of it before. As Danzo thought, his name was only known by some people with more seniority. But most of the people who know his name are elders of various tribes, and their status is not low. But why is Lord Danzo still so young? Does Lord Danzo also have the blood of Senju? If Lord Danzo leads the team, this battle will be foolproof. The ninjas below were noisy after seeing Danzo's young face, but with Tsunade's youth, this matter was not so difficult to accept. Especially after hearing the elders at home introduce Danzo's origin, these juniors were even more respectful. This is the same class as the third generation, a disciple of the second Hokage, and he is from the Shimura clan. Whether it is seniority or strength and ability, this young-looking man in front of them undoubtedly gave them great confidence. Is Uncle Danzo so powerful? Away from the crowd, Naruto stood with his feet chakra clinging to the branches, staring at Danzo on the high platform with wide eyes, his eyes full of disbelief. But at the same time, Naruto had another layer of doubt in his heart. Such powerful people admired his father and mother. Who are they? With his mind in a mess, Naruto's chakra, which he was not proficient in, became even more chaotic. He cried out in surprise and fell from the branch. Naruto's shouting and movement attracted the attention of others, and Danzo had just noticed Naruto's figure. The moment he landed unsteadily under his feet, the figure that was originally standing on the high platform had already shot out. Although the distance was a bit far, but Danzo relied on his body speed, not relying on chakra and body flicker technique, to catch Naruto steadily before he landed. Tuan, Uncle Danzo? Naruto looked around in confusion, only to find that he was being held in Danzo's hand again, looking at him a little embarrassedly and said, "Boy, if you want to watch the fun, just come to the front openly. Can you see clearly from such a distance?" Danzo's eyes moved, and he smiled and carried Naruto towards the crowd. "Uncle Danzo, what are you doing?" Little Naruto was held in Danzo's hand, struggling like a little chicken. "No, let me go." As he got closer and closer to the crowd, Naruto's pupils shrank and he struggled even harder. He could probably guess what Uncle Danzo was going to take him to, but how could this be possible? Although he already knew his identity and wanted to gain recognition from others, Naruto had no idea at all. But unfortunately, no matter how reluctant Naruto was, the movement of the two had attracted the attention of many onlookers. The third generation frowned at this scene, puzzled, and a little surprised by Naruto's address. Uncle Danzo? This generation is a mess. Everyone watched this scene coldly. Is that monster causing trouble again? The beard on his face is disgusting. Monsters are monsters. Chapter 020. Vicious words came into his ears, and Naruto's struggling movements slowly stopped, and his face was a little gloomy. Didn't you say that you wanted to get everyone's approval? Looking at Naruto, who stopped struggling in his hand, Danzo's smile was restrained, and he said calmly. Naruto didn't answer this time, and was quiet in Danzo's hand. He didn't know what to do. Especially after learning about his identity, Naruto was more sensitive to these villagers who didn't know the truth. Didn't you try it once before? Looking at the silent Naruto, and then looking at the crowd not far ahead looking at them, Danzo stopped and put him down and asked, Shikamaru and the others are different. Hearing about the previous experience, Naruto finally raised his head and whispered. Danzo shook his head and said, but you have to take that step. Now Naruto still lacks some confidence in facing these people. Naruto has not yet developed the thick skin of the original work. Uncle Danzo, I disappoint you. Naruto said a little disappointed. Danzo shook his head and made him feel heavy. But since he lacks confidence, I will give it to him. Holding Naruto's hand, Danzo squatted down and said to him seriously, you have to take that step. You have to tell them loudly what you think. But Naruto was still a little hesitant, but his eyes were obviously moved, and Danzo led him to the high platform next to the Hokage building. Danzo, be careful. That child is a monster. Don't let him go up. This monster is a disaster. Why did that guy go up? Get down. What are you doing standing there? A monster. The actions of the two people obviously made the civilians who had been paying attention around them very dissatisfied, and many civilian-born ninjas shouted. Those who can stand on the high platform are undoubtedly the respected people in the village. How can that monster be qualified to stand there? And those ninjas from the family were all embarrassed. Many people present knew Naruto's identity. Most of them guessed it based on the identities of Kushina and the fourth generation, and a small part knew the cause and effect of the matter. Nonsense. The third generation cursed and wanted to step forward to stop them, but Danzo's words stopped him. The person in front of you, who you call a monster, has something to say to you now. Danzo stood on the high platform and said quietly while looking at the crowd below. Next to him, Naruto seemed a little nervous. Get down. Monster. Get down. Danzo-sama, you will affect the morale of this war. However, the people below ignored Danzo's words and even scolded him. There were also a few who wanted to rush to the high platform. Uncle Danzo, you'd better not come with me. Naruto said timidly. He was not afraid of being scolded. He was used to being scolded. But this uncle was a good man, and he didn't like to implicate him. Frowning, Danzo waved his hand. Like ghosts, the root ninjas wearing animal masks were like standing stone statues, and then stood quietly beside the platform, blocking all those who wanted to move forward. No one dared to move forward, and they all moved away from the platform with horror, looking at Danzo on the platform with some fear. Say whatever you want to say, and tell these people loudly who you are and what you plan to do. The crowd below calmed down, and Danzo nodded with satisfaction and said to the confused Naruto, I will support you no matter what happens. Naruto was moved to tears. Uncle Danzo, ding, touching value +1. The virtual panel in front of Danzo finally showed a prompt of touching value +1, which also meant that Naruto recognized and respected Danzo from the bottom of his heart. Danzo was happy in his heart, but he looked serious on the surface. I will not be in the village in the future. You can't be bullied. I have to let others know that you are mine, Danzo's, before I leave. Perhaps because of Nine Tails, Naruto can clearly distinguish between the kindness and malice of others. So it is not easy for Danzo to gain the recognition and respect of this kid. After taking a look at Uncle Danzo, Naruto mustered up the courage to come to the high platform. Looking at the dark crowd below, he was a little confused. Naruto, say what you want to say quickly. We are all listening. A familiar voice sounded, which made Naruto's somewhat nervous mood stagnate. When he shook his head and looked, he found that the three friends from yesterday were also below. Naruto, don't embarrass us. Ino shouted at Naruto with a smile. Next to her, Shikamaru and Choji were also there. Behind them were their fathers, Nara Shikaku, Akamichi Choza, and Yamanaka Hai. When Naruto looked, the three of them smiled at Naruto in a friendly way. Are they my parents' friends? A sense of strength emerged in his nervous heart. Naruto stood firmly, took a deep breath and looked at the crowd below, shouting loudly, "My goal is to become a great ninja like Uncle Danzo. Even if you think I'm a monster and a disaster, but I know very well, I'm not a monster, nor a disaster. I will get the recognition of all of you. Become a great ninja like Uncle Danzo." Satisfied with Naruto's goal of himself, Danzo smiled with relief. He really had the illusion that his son had grown up. Danzo. Looking at Naruto, who was yelling and speaking his mind, the third generation couldn't help but come to Danzo and ask, "What is your attitude towards Naruto?" The third generation no longer had any ill will to figure out Danzo, and now they began to treat him the same way they treat ordinary people. As a Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, Naruto could sense ill will. Since he was willing to accept Danzo, it meant that Danzo was not approaching him with ill will. What attitude? Danzo looked strange, then frowned and said seriously, "Naruto is a good kid. I will protect him from now on. Don't bully him." Third generation. Shouldn't I be the one to say this? When Danzo asked him for someone, his expression was the same. And Naruto seemed to have heard the conversation between the two, and couldn't help but reach out and hold the corner of Danzo's clothes. Looking at Naruto's little action, Danzo's heart was about to burst into laughter. It's not in vain to train this kid. The hearts of the third generation were filled with bitterness. Isn't Naruto's current situation all because of you, Danzo? Why do you make it seem like I'm the bad guy now? It was really useless to treat this guy well in the past. You know, no matter how busy I am, I will always take time to chat with this guy. I didn't expect that Danzo would kidnap him in just a few days. Jiraiya is his apprentice, and Minato is Jiraiya's apprentice, Minato's son. Logically speaking, he is Sarutobi Hiruzen's apprentice. But this apprentice is now very wary of his master. Glancing at Danzo, Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed inwardly. This guy's strength has declined a lot, but he is becoming more and more skilled in things like bewitching people. In that case, you have to take good care of him. Since Danzo no longer embarrasses Naruto, the hearts of the third generation are also relieved, and they said to Danzo seriously, "If Danzo can really treat Naruto well, he will not let Minato down." Danzo answered without thinking, "Do I need you to tell me that, eh?" Chapter 21. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of breaking through the air was heard frequently. One after another, black shadows quickly jumped between the branches, like agile black cats. Yoshino Town is ahead. We will rest there for a night, and should be able to reach the border tomorrow. After handing over to the route ninja station nearby, Danzo announced that the end of this journey was about to arrive. At this time, he looked a little embarrassed compared to the leisure and comfort in Konoha Village, but his movements were obviously smoother than before. During the long journey, Danzo tried hard to adapt himself to the ninja's way of traveling and to hone his control over this body, with very good results. Ding! The sound of metal collisions sounded, accompanied by the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. Danzo, people from Cloud Shinobi Village were found ahead. Hyuga Hizashi reported beside Danzo, who had already checked the movements ahead through his Byakugan. There are only 3 of them, and they seem to be the advanced team, led by a Jonin and 2 Chunin, but the Uchiha people don't seem to plan to report to you. The Hyuga clan's royal family will not go to the battlefield. So this time the Hyuga clan is led by Hizashi, the head of the branch house. Danzo frowned and looked at him, waving his hand to signal the team to stop temporarily. Unexpectedly, the people of Cloud Shinobi Village have already begun to explore deep into the Fire Country, and they have also sent Jonin. It seems that the information sent by the root people forged by the envoy has still made them see the clues. Danzo's feet rely on chakra to jump steadily from the branch, and his figure moves to the front of the team. Are you Fire Country planning to provoke a war? Before he saw the figure, the arrogant voice of the Cloud Shinobi Village ninja sounded and fell into his ears. Near the location where the sound came from, Uchiha Fugaku and several Uchiha Jonin surrounded the 3 Cloud Shinobi Village spies tightly. 2 of the Chunin looked dull, obviously under illusion. Danzo-sama, the 3 have been controlled. The 2 Chunin don't know anything, and this Jonin is very resistant to illusion. Fugaku saw Danzo coming and reported his brief interrogation. Danzo? This title obviously caught the attention of the Cloud Shinobi Jonin. He looked at Danzo's young face with some confusion, but then his eyes seemed to recognize him, and he was a little flustered. Danzo grinned, looked at the Cloud Shinobi Jonin and asked, "Do you know me?" The Cloud Shinobi Jonin didn't answer, and asked gloomily, "Do you really plan to start a war in Konoha?" After recognizing Danzo, he no longer had the arrogance he had before. The fact that this old guy was sent to the front line already shows Konoha's attitude. This news must be passed back to the Raikage. As soon as this thought came to his mind, the Jonin felt a chill on his neck and stared at Danzo with wide eyes in disbelief. He didn't expect Danzo to kill them directly without even letting him finish his 2 sentences. Kill them all. There's no need to waste time getting any information. Get to the front line as soon as possible. Looking at the fallen bodies indifferently, Danzo wiped the kunai stained with bloodline and ordered. Although he was bound to the Virgin Mary system, it did not affect him from being a murderous demon, because the system has no punishment rules.
Yes.
Fugaku's eyes were complicated, and he waved his hand to signal the Uchiha's people to take action. As the leader of the Uchiha clan, he knows Danzo's recent changes best. There is a lot of friction between them, Uchiha and Danzo. In the past, Danzo often hid in the dark. Although Uchiha holds the power of the Konoha Guard, he still has no way to figure out his movements. Now, Danzo walks in the sun openly, and his every move is exposed. But this makes Fugaku's heart more complicated and fearful. If Danzo was a real villain who did not hide his purpose before, then Danzo now can be said to be an old fox with a sunny smile. As for why he is not said whether he is a hypocrite, it is because Fugaku really can't guess whether Danzo is pretending or has really changed. Feeling the feeling of being peeped, Danzo turned back suddenly and met the somewhat complicated eyes of Uchiha Fugaku. His calm and indifferent eyes made Fugaku panic. Keep moving forward. With the enemy at hand, you must put aside your prejudices and cooperate with the Hyuga clan to try to avoid exposing our purpose too early. Danzo smiled gently and ordered.
Yes.
Fugaku was sincerely afraid of this smile and answered with his head down involuntarily. The Uchiha tribe members next to him did not move. They all frowned and looked at their tribe leader, looking at Danzo with dissatisfaction in their eyes. Danzo looked around and scanned the group of arrogant Uchiha tribe members. He rolled his eyes in his heart, but still kept a smile on his face. He looked at them and said, "We are all part of Konoha. Please put the overall situation first." His attitude was humble, but like a spring breeze, so that these Uchiha people did not think it was an order, but an equal communication. Danzo's attitude made them nod unconsciously, and they scattered and were seriously alert. Nodding with satisfaction, Danzo continued to hide in the middle of the team and continued to move towards the border. This guy. Raising his head, Fugaku looked deeply at Danzo's back. The attitude of this old guy Danzo became more and more unpredictable. How could Danzo have such a mind to treat Uchiha in the past? Every time they met, they always put on a sour face, not to mention the gentle attitude now. Hyuga Hizashi said to Danzo, "I don't know how long this battle will last." Brother was impulsive at the beginning. Danzo smiled Kaido. Even if Hayashi didn't kill the Cloud Shinobi leader who kidnapped Hinata, the other party would have provoked all this with other excuses. That brainless Raikage likes to use such conspiracy. He determined that Sarutobi would not agree to fight, but he didn't expect that I would lead all this. Hizashi nodded, looking at Danzo with gratitude in his eyes. Danzo has changed a lot. He once fought with Danzo, but Danzo's face was cold and a little gloomy at that time. Except for those equally cold root ninjas, no one else believed it, which made people feel an inexplicable sense of distance. It seems that someone has said this to me every day since I became young. Danzo smiled Kaido. His tone was gentle, and there was no emotion. In this team, Danzo is the commander-in-chief and the mastermind. As the leader of the Hyuga clan, Hizashi is the main eye, responsible for exploration and observation, as well as commanding other eyes. Uchiha Fugaku personally leads the team, as the arm of the team, responsible for clearing and cutting off most of the enemies. Although Uchiha is arrogant, it is undeniable that the individual strength of Uchiha is much stronger than that of other clans. The strong should be respected by others, but Uchiha is more self-satisfied and proud, rather than recognized and respected by others. Recalling Fugaku's eyes just now, and the faint sense of peeping, Danzo's smile became brighter and gentler. Have fun. Chapter 022. In front of Yoshino Town.
Mr. Danzo.
A green shadow flashed in front of Danzo. After seeing who was coming, Danzo asked, "Guy, what's the situation?" My guy didn't look as unreliable as he was in the village. He said seriously, "We have controlled the entire Yoshino Town to ensure that there will be no news leaks. The resting place and food are ready." Danzo nodded and said to the team behind, "Everyone go into the town to rest. You will have a hard life from today on. Don't show off or cause trouble after entering the village. We will stay for one night. After giving a few instructions, Danzo stepped into the town first. Faced with the mighty ninja team, the residents of Yoshino Town were a little panicked. They hid at home and watched carefully from the windows. Might Guy pointed to a trembling old man standing on the street and said, "This is the mayor." "Hello, hello." Danzo came to the mayor casually and extended his hand. Regardless of the mayor's frightened expression, he took his hand and shook it. "I'm really sorry to trouble you this time." The mayor's frightened face became strange. He had never seen a ninja be so polite and friendly to civilians. Although there is no clear hierarchy, the current status of the entire ninja world is very clear. Except for the daimyo of the Fire Country, or other dignitaries who think of themselves as nobles, the status of ninjas is undoubtedly ranked first. Samurai with strength and status are ranked second, and civilians who have neither status nor strength belong to the last place. As long as they are ninjas, even the weakest genin in each ninja village, as long as they come to such a small village, they will be respectfully called Ninja Lord. We will only stay here for one night. After we leave tomorrow, someone will block this place for about a day. Please help me calm the emotions of the residents in the town. When we win the battle and come back, there will be a certain amount of compensation to make up for your losses. Danzo saw the doubt on his face, but he didn't care. He didn't want to threaten coldly for something that could be solved peacefully. Understood. The mayor agreed immediately and felt relieved. At least the young man in front of him looked easy to talk to, not like the ninjas in the previous war, but he looked a little familiar. The mayor didn't recognize Danzo, but Danzo recognized him. As a town not far from the border between the two countries, Yoshino Town is not the first time to be stationed as the Konoha village. More than a decade ago, this guy was already the mayor, and Danzo's original owner also led a team to station here. At that time, the upright middle-aged Danzo didn't look at this guy well. After arranging the accommodation, Danzo, looking tired, asked Might Guy to wake him up at night. He found a room and lay down and fell asleep. When he woke up, it was already dark, and the follow-up large force had arrived in Yoshino Town. Several people in charge had also arrived, waiting for Danzo, the commander-in-chief, to wake up so that they could start the pre-war meeting. "Sorry, I'm really tired." After a good sleep, Danzo was much more energetic. When he came to the meeting room, everyone else was already there. "It's okay. Lord Danzo has a lot of things to consider and is under more pressure. We can still understand that." The head of a small family cleverly flattered him. Others looked at Danzo and had no complaints. After all, the seniority is there. It is understandable that people need to rest more when they are old. These people don't know that Danzo's body has recovered to a young state, and his body functions have recovered together. They all gave him face, and Danzo was also very happy. He nodded and sat down in the main seat, and said to Aburame Ryoma next to him, "Ryoma, let me report to everyone about the situation of Cloud Shinobi Village first." Aburame Ryoma nodded, and reported the situation of Cloud Shinobi Village collected by the time route. The matter of the Thunder Country delegation should have been exposed. The number of troops gathered at the border of Cloud Shinobi Village has increased. However, according to the information from the Cloud Shinobi Village spies, we have confirmed the location of their main force. Ryoma spread out a map on the table, which showed the Fire Country and the Thunder Country, as well as the towns, villages, and place names of all sizes around them. This place is called Siming Mountain. Ryoma pointed to a place near the Thunder Country and the Fire Country. The main force of Cloud Shinobi Village is gathered here. There are other small mountains and villages around this Siming Mountain, and there are also many ninjas hiding there. It would be much easier to get the other party's clear location. After all, they are hiding in the dark now, and Cloud Shinobi Village is likely to not know that they have reached the border. Who is leading the team in Cloud Shinobi Village? Has it been confirmed? Fugaku asked. According to intelligence, both the Jinchuriki and the Fourth Raikage are in Cloud Shinobi Village. Ryoma said, "We speculate that the leader of Cloud Shinobi Village this time should be the Molten Shield Toshiro, who experienced the Second and Third World Wars. He is currently the only person in Cloud Shinobi Village who is qualified to command except the Fourth Raikage." Toshiro? Danzo nodded. He had seen this person in the original owner's memory. Toshiro, who participated in the Second and Third World Wars and is the right-hand man of the Third Raikage, is indeed one of the few people in Cloud Shinobi Village who is qualified to command the war. Thinking so in his heart, Danzo's face was full of disdain. A conservative old guy, not to be feared. Hearing Danzo's evaluation of other old guys, the people present were a little amused. This is not just to boost morale, Danzo is also telling a fact. The ninjas of Kirigakure have gathered at the border, and the daimyo of the Land of Lightning has also replied to him, revealing a rare desire for peace in his words. However, Danzo threw the matter back to the daimyo of the Land of Lightning, asking him to talk to the people of Cloud Shinobi Village himself. It will not be long before the Raikage will ask the Cloud Shinobi Village to withdraw their troops and ask for peace. Whether Danzo fought well in this battle or not was just to see how much benefit he could get when the Land of Lightning asked for peace later. At least it should not be less than the supplies promised by the Land of Fire to the Land of Water. Of course, this time it was mainly to harvest a wave of moving points and to get himself out of the dark. After the short pre-war meeting, all the leaders went back to rest. Fugaku, I just saw a tavern in the town. How about having a drink together? Uchiha Fugaku just walked out of the meeting room and heard Danzo shouting behind him. Chapter 023. Looking back at the somewhat different Danzo with a look of astonishment, Fugaku smiled stiffly and politely refused. We have to leave tomorrow, so let's not drink. It's okay. We can eat food if we don't drink. We've been tired for so many days. We need to have some midnight snacks to make up for it. Danzo didn't give him a chance to refuse at all and walked out first. Staring blankly at Danzo's back, Fugaku hesitated for a while and finally gritted his teeth and followed. After all, he is an elder of the same generation as his father, and he can't lose his face. The noisy tavern became a little quiet because of the arrival of Danzo and Fugaku, and the puzzled and curious eyes around them fell on the two from time to time. But both of them have seen big scenes, and they didn't care about these eyes. Danzo tapped the table with his fingers and said to Fugaku, who was eating, I heard that your eldest son is talented and has joined Umbu. Fugaku replied, Not bad. Fortunately, the Hokage-sama values him. Danzo asked again, You have a younger son? How old is he? How about being my apprentice? Fugaku was stunned for a moment, thought for a while and replied, My son is still young and has a bad temper, and his mother and brother love him very much and don't want him to suffer. Danzo nodded and didn't continue to pester. Children can't be spoiled too much. It's not good to become a naughty child.
Yes.
Fugaku replied. He really couldn't figure out what Danzo wanted to do, so he simply prepared to eat again. But just as he took the cup and took a sip, he heard Danzo suddenly ask, I heard that there are many voices in your Uchiha who are planning to stir up disputes in the village. Cough, 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 cough. The unexpected words made Fugaku spit out the water that he had just swallowed. He coughed and stared at Danzo with wide eyes. Can this not be a surprise attack? What does this old guy know? Looking at Fugaku's vigilant look, Danzo smiled and said, Don't worry, these are all trivial matters. Is this still a trivial matter? Fugaku was confused, and all kinds of suspicions emerged in his heart. Danzo, this old guy, has changed his attitude too quickly recently, and he has been smiling at him, and his attitude towards his tribesmen is also very gentle. Is this guy going to take advantage of this war to kill all the elites of Uchiha here? The more he thought about it, the more possible it was. Fugaku had already left his chair halfway, ready to retreat and notify his tribesmen at any time. He didn't dare to attack Danzo. This old guy was a high-ranking member of Konoha. To attack him would be tantamount to open rebellion. Fugaku didn't know how many tricks Danzo had in his hands, but Danzo knew a little about his own strength. Since he dared to ask him out, he must have something to rely on. In fact, this matter is big enough to destroy the clan, but it can also be small. Danzo tapped the table lightly and looked at Fugaku with a gentle smile. He didn't care about Fugaku's pins and needles. Uchiha is actually the same as other villagers. Everyone is a member of the big family of Konoha, but maybe this brother is too arrogant to other brothers, so he is excluded by this family. But now this family is in trouble, and everyone is holding hands to protect the face of this family. What he said. Fugaku looked at Danzo blankly. He suspected that this guy was up to something, but when these words came out of Danzo's mouth, it was like magic, which made his heart throb. That's right. We are all from the same village.
Fugaku.
Danzo poured a glass of wine for Uchiha Fugaku like a kind elder. You are the leader of the tribe. You can see many things more clearly than the tribe members. They are ignorant. But can you still fool around with them? The clan leader should guide the clan members on the right path and take the lead, rather than go with the flow and be carried forward by the clan members. These words exploded in Uchiha Fugaku's head like a bolt from the blue. He felt that he had understood something because of these words, but he also felt that he didn't understand anything. But there is no doubt that Danzo knows Uchiha very well, and he also knows himself. This is what Uchiha Fugaku is shocked about now. Is there a traitor in the clan? Who is it? Fugaku was thinking about the candidate for the traitor. This time he responded to Danzo and led Uchiha to fight, in fact, to ease the relationship between the village and Uchiha. Originally, the relationship between the two was very obvious. Although they were in the same village, the people of the Uchiha clan were like outsiders. Not only did they live outside Konoha, but the clan members rarely interacted with the people in the village. Even because of the duties of the Konoha guard, they have a very bad relationship with many people in the village. Originally, after the death of the fourth Hokage, there were many voices in the clan who wanted to provoke a coup. As time passed, the relationship between the village and the clan became more and more rigid, which also led to the increase of these voices. Fugaku, the clan leader, saw it very clearly, but he was helpless. Although he was the clan leader, he could only follow the trend and choose the ideas of most people in the clan. He himself knew that if Uchiha really had a coup, it would never succeed. Standing in the position of clan leader, Uchiha Fugaku could see more clearly. The big and small families in the village, even those ninjas of civilian origin, are not as simple as they seem. With the power of the Uchiha clan alone, it is impossible to resist the entire Konoha village. It is impossible to rely on force to change the status quo and let the Uchiha family become Hokage and the controller of Konoha village. Even if Shursui or his son Itachi, a genius among geniuses, appeared, the probability of success was not high. What made Fugaku even more distressed was that the most outstanding genius in the tribe was still on the side of the village. Fugaku opened his mouth to explain that this was not the case, but he was powerless. Danzo's attitude was obviously that this matter was already a done deal. Danzo's eyes turned cold and he said, "Fugaku, you have to stop this from happening. Since I choose to tell you now, it means that the village does not want to see this happen. We don't want the Uchiha family to leave us. Do you understand what I mean?" Fugaku felt bitter, but still nodded silently. He didn't know how much Danzo knew, but since the village knew it, it meant that there was definitely a traitor inside Uchiha. And the traitor status in the tribe was not low. Fugaku, who was not optimistic about this matter, felt cold in his heart. He swore that even if he lost his position as the chief after returning to the village, he would try to stop the stupid behavior and ideas of those tribesmen. In the shabby tavern, Uchiha Fugaku was on pins and needles, without saying a word or explaining anything. Chapter 024. The two were talking halfway when Aburame Ryoma suddenly appeared beside Danzo and reported something in a low voice. "I know." Danzo nodded, waved his hand calmly, and signaled Ryoma to leave. "I only asked you to talk today because you are still rational." Danzo tapped the table lightly, still keeping a gentle smile on his face, but his tone was obviously cold. "In this war, I hope Uchiha can obey my orders, instead of being arrogant like in the past." Danzo stated the purpose of this time. This war is related to his reputation and moving value, and there is absolutely no room for error. Although his current status is not low, it is only in the eyes of the senior officials of each village. Even some younger senior officials do not know his name Danzo. This makes it difficult for him to spread his reputation. There are not many opportunities to collect moving values like now. If Uchiha's people do not make trouble on the battlefield and listen to his command obediently, Danzo does not mind letting them go. After all, the Uchiha extermination also cost the strength of Konoha village. But if he still maintains that arrogant attitude and refuses to obey orders. A hint of coldness flashed in Danzo's eyes. "Danzo-sama, you are here too?" A somewhat surprised voice sounded, making Danzo frown. Hyuga Hizashi sat down next to Danzo familiarly and said with a smile, "I have been looking for a suitable restaurant in this town for a long time and didn't find a suitable restaurant. I originally planned to find a pub to have a drink, but I didn't expect you to be here too." His tone was full of surprise. If Ryoma hadn't told him about Hyuga Hizashi's movements in advance, Danzo almost couldn't tell that this guy was deliberately looking for the two of them. What a coincidence. Although he knew it in his heart, Danzo still smiled and ordered some more side dishes. "It's quite a coincidence." Hyuga Hizashi smiled and asked curiously, "We're going to fight tomorrow. Are you two discussing strategic matters?" As soon as he said this, Danzo probably understood why he came here and couldn't help but smile Kaido. "No, I'm talking about some personal matters with Fugaku." "Personal matters?" Hyuga Hizashi looked at the two of them strangely. Although he was from the Hyuga branch house, he still had a lot of connections in the village. He knew the relationship between the Uchiha clan and Danzo very well. But it was also for this reason that he stayed up late at night and came to this tavern to look for the two of them. He suspected that Danzo was actually acting. Since Uchiha was the second to support Danzo, there were actually such voices in the major families. Although Danzo openly inherited the ideas of the second generation, he was very repulsive to Uchiha. But in fact, behind the scenes, Danzo had already hooked up with the Uchiha people. After all, although the two have always been repulsive and hateful to each other, there is actually no conflict of interest at the root. But this was only the speculation of a very few people, and it didn't even reach the ears of the Hokage. Danzo-sama, I still have to prepare for tomorrow's affairs, so I'll take my leave first. Fugaku seemed to be unable to bear the pressure brought by Danzo, and took advantage of Hizashi's arrival, gritted his teeth, and stood up and said, "You go, prepare well, after all. You Uchiha people have to trouble you for a lot of things." Danzo smiled and stood up and said, with a hint of meaning. Fugaku's heart was cold again, and he waved his hand to signal Danzo not to see him off, and left quickly. Hizashi looked at Fugaku's back as he left, and felt more and more that the two of them had something else behind their backs. "Hizashi, you eat slowly. I'm leaving first." Looking at Fugaku's back as he left, Danzo nodded with satisfaction and said to Hizashi next to him. As he said that, he also stood up and left, leaving Hyuga Hizashi sitting there alone with a confused look on his face. The forest covered by dense trees is the main theme of the environment in the Land of Fire. For this reason, the Land of Fire is richer than the other four countries. Black shadows leaped between the trees. Early in the morning, Danzo and others were ready to sneak towards Siming Mountain. Seeing the Uchiha family members obediently guarding the surroundings, Danzo nodded with satisfaction. Although his face was still arrogant and full of disdain for the people around him, it was enough to be obedient. The warning given to Fugaku last night still had some meaning. At this moment, Hyuga Hizashi next to him suddenly said, "Traces of ninjas were found ahead. They should be from Cloud Shinobi Village." Through the Byakugan, he had noticed the signal from the Uchiha who was exploring in front of the team. "Confirm the specific location of the other party," Danzo said. It was not strange to see Cloud Shinobi people near Siming Mountain. Hizashi nodded, and there were already several figures around him moving quickly towards the front of the team. The whole team stopped and waited for a while, and several Hyuga people who had just left came back. The enemy is not far ahead. According to the team's speed, it will take about 3 minutes to catch up with them. The enemy has not discovered us, and the number is less than 1/10 of our number, one of the Hyuga ninjas reported. Danzo nodded and looked at the others around him calmly. Familiar faces were waiting for orders. A hint of coldness flashed in his eyes, and Danzo said directly, "Everyone, catch up with them. Surround and annihilate them directly. No need to leave them alive. There is no need to hide. Just let go. But there are a lot of people on the other side. This will expose our whereabouts, right?" Hyuga Hizashi asked doubtfully. Danzo shook his head. "Kaido, it's okay. We are close to Siming Mountain now. There are so many of us. Even if we don't kill them, our tracks won't be hidden for too long. We should take advantage of this opportunity to weaken the enemy's manpower." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of breaking through the air continued. At Danzo's signal, the people around continued to rush towards the enemy's location. The battle has begun. Danzo looked at Might Guy, who was eager to rush out, and said, "Guy, you stay beside me and be my guard." It is still a bit difficult for him to protect himself in this war with his current strength. In addition to the moving value, another aspect of recruiting Might Guy is to let him protect his own safety. Might Guy of Grandmaster 8 Inner Gates technique is like his father. As long as he regards Danzo as a partner, he will naturally risk his life to protect Danzo. But Might Guy looked at the fire in front of him and felt unwilling. He is now thinking about getting military merits, becoming famous, and letting the whole ninja world know about Konoha's proud blue beast. Looking at Might Guy's appearance, Danzo also knew that he was unwilling in his heart and explained, "The commander-in-chief is the core of the entire team. Protecting me is the key to this war. What's more, these people are just the vanguard of Cloud Shinobi, and they are just some minions. When we face the large army of Cloud Shinobi, even if you want to stay with me as a guard, I will order you to go into battle and kill the enemy." After these words, Might Guy suppressed his somewhat impatient heart and replied, "Yes, I will definitely protect the safety of Lord Danzo." Hizashi next to him looked at Might Guy strangely. He didn't understand why Danzo was so concerned about a civilian. Might Guy is a ninja who specializes in physical skills, and he is also a special jonin. As a physical skill family, the Hyuga clan naturally pays attention to him. But civilians are just civilians after all. No matter how hard they try, they can't keep up with these children of families with white eyes and bloodlines and a 1,000-year heritage. Chapter 025. Ahead, there was a huge noise. noisy shouts and cries for help. The noise caused by various escape techniques was not small. When Danzo slowly came to the battlefield, the battle was over. The smell of blood and countless corpses were everywhere. Under such a crushing number of people, this Cloud Shinobi team had no power to resist at all, and there were almost no casualties on their side. Hizashi, have someone go and explore the location of other Cloud Shinobi. Danzo ordered Hyuga Hizashi next to him, and then said to the others, clean up the battlefield, and once the Hyuga family finds the enemy's trace, set off immediately. We will fight all the way to Siming Mountain and meet that old guy Todai. The ninjas who had experienced war regained their lost fighting spirit, and those who had just become ninjas and had not experienced war were also excited under the leadership of these old ninjas. The crushing number of people made them only feel how powerful the Konoha village they were in was, but did not feel the cruelty of war. But at the same time, the pride and confidence in their hearts began to swell. What's going on? The battle still attracted Todai's attention, and he frowned and asked Cloud Shinobi Jonin, who hurried into the tent. Cloud Shinobi Jonin reported with a grim expression. We found traces of Konoha shinobi, and there are quite a few of them, coming for us. Konoha? Tsukio stood up suddenly, glared at Cloud Shinobi Jonin and asked, the Konoha people came to our door. Why are you reporting now? Cloud Shinobi Jonin explained. They were hiding before, and our people didn't find their traces at all. Waste. Tsukio glared and said, order the other teams around to be alert, and reply to the wreckage, saying that the Konoha people have arrived at the front line and provoked war.
Yes.
Cloud Shinobi Jonin nodded and was about to leave, but heard Tsuchi continue to say, those spies should be dealt with after the war is over. There is no need for them to stay in this world. Tsukio's eyes were full of coldness.
Yes.
Cloud Shinobi Jonin paused, but still nodded. Kaido. Cloud Shinobi Jonin left, and only Toshiro was left standing in the tent, his face uncertain. In the past few days, Raikage Secretary Mabui had already sensed that something was wrong, and sent small troops to this side one after another. He didn't care at the time, but he didn't expect that the people of Konoha would actually dare to provoke a war, and even take the initiative. Such a decisive move, provoking a war as soon as arriving at the front line. This is not the style of the old guy Sarutobi Hiruzen. Toshiro stood in the tent with an uncertain mood, looking at a map in front of him. This time, the plan of the Lightning Country delegation was planned by him. The purpose is only the Byakugan. He has discussed with Raikage and others. With Sarutobi Hiruzen's character, he should hold back for the sake of the overall situation this time. By then, they can also get the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan, which will be more powerful for the development of the village's ninjutsu. As for if Sarutobi Hiruzen was not as they expected and was going to start a war, they would not mind it. The Cloud Shinobi Village was never afraid of trouble. He just didn't expect Konoha to come to the front line without declaring war. He always felt that something was wrong with this matter. This was not Sarutobi Hiruzen's style. Lord Toshiro, another person, hurriedly ran in from outside the tent. What's wrong? Toshiro asked with a frown. He had a bad premonition. We have 3 teams that have encountered Konoha's people in succession, and almost all of them were wiped out. Under Toshiro's sharp eyes, the visitor's face was sweating, and he said nervously, what? Toshiro could no longer sit still, and lifted the curtain and walked out of the tent. He was sure that the commander this time was definitely not Sarutobi Hiruzen, or those under Sarutobi Hiruzen. Decisive killing, leaving no prisoners, this approach would not be practiced by anyone in the Hokage faction. Call back the other teams outside, and ask them to meet me at Siming Mountain, and report to the Raikage as soon as possible, saying that the front line needs support. Siming Mountain is the highest mountain in the vicinity, and Toshiro's team is now on the top of Siming Mountain. Looking from here, with Siming Mountain as the center, the sound of fighting can be heard from all directions. They are surrounded. Toshiro asked with a grim expression, do you know who is the commander of Konoha this time? The enemy is hiding very deeply. Our people have not seen the enemy's general commander show up. Most of the participants are some small and medium-sized families in Konoha. The big families are only Uchiha, Hyuga, Inuzuka, and Aburame. The person who reported replied, continue to find out who the enemy's general commander is, and report to me immediately when you get the news. Toshiro's eyes were full of worry. The 2 major families of Konoha attacked at the same time, and there were also the support of the Aburame and Inuzuka families. They discovered that they had been hiding until now and were exposed actively. This time, the general commander's seniority and battlefield experience are not low. Konoha is definitely playing for real. I just hope that Raikage will receive the news as soon as possible and send support. Otherwise their advanced troops will have to consider retreating. Hokage. A great victory on the front line. The army besieged the Cloud Shinobi vanguard troops in Siming Mountain. At this time, Konoha village also received the battle report from the front line. Under Danzo's leadership, within less than a day of arriving at the border, 3 small groups of Cloud Shinobi village troops were annihilated in succession, and they rushed towards the enemy's main force step by step. Danzo is still quite powerful. Udatain Kohara's face was full of joy, as if he had won a victory. Spread the news and let the people in the village be happy. Midokado Hamura pushed his glasses and said, "Umbu," the messenger, scratched his head awkwardly and said, "The people in the village have already known about it, and now every household has started to celebrate." Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned. The news was spread too quickly. He couldn't help but stand up and walk to the window, open the window, and look down. Danzo looks young, but I didn't expect him to be so powerful. What do you mean young? My wife said that Danzo is the same age as Hokage. The Lightning Country bullied people too much, so the second generation appeared and allowed Danzo to regain his youth and lead the troops to fight. So, Danzo is the one favored by the second generation? The Konoha villagers below were all smiling and praising Danzo's achievements. Touching value +1. Touching value +1. Touching value +1. The continuous reminders relieved Danzo's tired expression due to the rush. Rushing. That's right, his fatigue was due to the rush. As the commander-in-chief, Danzo only needs to give instructions and confirm the next route after each battle. This kind of thing is easy for him, and he doesn't need to think too much. The plan naturally appears in his mind. Click on the panel to view the total amount of touching points currently obtained. Main attribute panel name, Shimura Danzō. Touching value, 123.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.